Good morning, everyone. This is the Assiniboine Community Committee. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. I would be Councillor Dobson. I'm the chair for today. We have with us Councillors Duncan, Councillors Luke. From our senior committee clerk is Mrs. Cohen, and we have also a couple of members from our public service. I would like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. And at this point, I believe we need a motion to approve the minutes of April 7th. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion's carried.
So we'll move on to delegations. Councillors, there is one individual who did not register to speak in delegation who is with us today that is wishing to speak with respect to report 2. If the committee would like to suspend the rules.
Sure, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried.
Okay, so first we'll hear from the delegates who did register for the hearing. So Maria Ivy Mendoza and Diana Nagaya Ann, are you presenting together or separately?
Yes.
Together?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Just right at the table there. And they're speaking with respect to report 1.
Okay. Wait until they're ready.
All right. Good morning, members of the council and everyone. It is an honor to be here. I'd like to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Ivy Mendoza and this is Diana Ngayan of 304 Brooklyn Street for requesting for non-conforming approach approval. So if you look at our presentation that you may have there with you, we have 3 reasons why we need an approach. Mainly, it's safety. Second is access and space. And lastly, for everyone to be happy. Both of us are healthcare workers and we both work evening and night shifts. One of us parks on the street and when we go home late at night, most of the time we have to park so far away from our house. We are always scared to go home and we fear for our safety. It can be more challenging during winter when it's harder to walk home due to icy or snowy sidewalks. With a front approach, we will feel safer. You will see on the next page that our street is extremely congested. It doesn't matter what time of day, it is always jam-packed. When we mentioned about space and access, we are saying that we barely have space to park on the street. While in the back lane, our lane is not the widest. We have a carport from the back, but it's extremely difficult to access, especially during winter. I've been stuck a couple of times and caused traffic at the back. Our back lane does not get snow plowed, so at least if we have a front approach, we have an alternative parking space and alternative entry or exit for the other car if ever it gets challenging to maneuver at the back. So our last reason why we need the front approach is for everyone to be happy. Despite this, if you could see, our back lane is like a lake. If we have a front approach, everyone's happy, especially us. It will somehow make up for our frustration of being denied back lane repair multiple times. As 311 City Services said that it is not hazardous at the moment. It may not seem hazardous, but it is a nuisance because it has caused flooding in our basement. Also, I spoke to some of our neighbors and they're happy for us and have no problem with this application. So on the next pages, here are 5 Brooklyn Street houses that have front approaches. There's 2 that's beside us. That's 280 and 264, and the rest is 423, 437, and 485 Brooklyn Street. In the report, it says that they recommend tandem parking from the back, but we think it's not ideal because our carport is actually very high. So to extend it, it will be more difficult and costly. Also, it's complicated because the house beside the carport is very close and they have pipes and some pump hoses beside the carport. It will also affect our air conditioning and the hydrometer beside our house if we extend the parking from the back. In the report, they also mentioned that creating a front approach can affect trees and green spaces. There are no trees in the property nor on the boulevard. Also, it was mentioned about possible conflicts with pedestrians and vehicles crossing the public way. Presently, there are more conflicts between neighbors because of inconsiderate parking and congestion. Conflict with pedestrians is non-existent with a upfront approach because responsible drivers like us will always give way to pedestrians and to vehicles in the public road. Moreover, and contrary to what was said in the report, one less car from the street can facilitate easier street snow clearing or sweeping. The entry area proposed is almost as big as a car parking horizontally in the street, so the amount of available on-street parking space will not be much affected. We have actually already spoken to at least 8 approach licensed contractors for us to be prepared and be knowledgeable about this process. We knew that it is not an easy process from the beginning, but we have a lot of hope in us. We love our home and our neighborhood, and that's why we talked to some of our neighbors beforehand to make sure there won't be any problem with them. And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for giving us the chance to present our case, and thank you for your time. That's all.
Okay, any questions at this point?
Sure. So how many vehicles do you have?
Just two.
Just two. And I'm looking at your neighbor at 298, the way he's designed his backyard where it's gravel behind. Could you not do that and park like he's parking, or further down, there's another neighbor at 299 that's parking parallel to the back lane?
From Google Maps, it's not updated, but when we bought the house, the backyard is already closed and there's already a deck. And there's not enough space for another car if ever we have to open, even if we remove the fence. So there's only a room for one car, which is for the carport.
Mhm. And what were you saying about the carport in your presentation? That
It's elevated, so it's just so it will be leveled with the back lane. So if you could see from the pictures, it's high and going towards, if we extend it from the carport to the front, it will hit or affect some of the pipes from the other house and our air conditioning on the side and the hydro. And we talked also with the contractor who looked at the site, and it says it's really complicated because they have to demolish like some of the carport or the part of the floor of the carport to make it easy to slope it down. So it's more ideal if we just have a front approach so that we can make use of that space, and then we don't have to demolish the carport or to change it.
okay. Yeah, I mean, your back lane, it looks like it doesn't drain properly, but it looks compared to a lot of back lanes, it looks like it's in good condition. Yeah, it is challenging with snow, of course. You know, we're a snow city. It is challenging. Okay, I have no more questions.
Councillor Duncan, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. Distance wise, what's the space between the edge of your side step and the neighboring property line?
From our house, like
Yeah, so I see that you folks have like a side entrance with a step up. I can't tell if there's step up and step down on both sides.
oh yes, both sides.
Okay.
And from the entrance, if that's what I
So
understand.
the edge of your step, I don't see directions here on your but the edge of your step where you have those two planter boxes right now to the property line, not the
That-
next house, but the property line.
The distance, we don't specifically know the length, but when we talked to the contractors, they said that that space is wide enough for a car to fit. That's our mistake too. We should have specifically checked the size
The
from
size
the
is-
entrance to the other.
For the size is like 10 feet. And then for the for the city property that we are asking for is like 12 feet for the long.
So you have 10 feet between the side of your step, like I don't know what side these pavers are beside your, you look like you have a patio area there. Are they each like 1 foot pavers, 18-inch pavers, you know?
From the side step, from the door, is that what?
Not from the door,
Oh.
from where your entrance is, like you guys have a side step that comes up from the front and comes
Like from the
up
fence?
and then to your property line, perhaps. You guys have any dimensions at all here?
Don't have the specific dimensions. When we talked to the contractors, they just said that
The space is enough.
Okay, I'll
To
follow
fit.
up with the public service on that. So you guys want to approach from the front and again, I'll ask you, like, what's the distance from the front of your house to the city property, do you know?
13
Oh.
feet.
yes, 13.
13 feet, okay. And then there's no, like, there's a continuous sidewalk that runs right along the front of your property? Yeah, like there's a sidewalk, a city
Yes,
sidewalk,
there's a sidewalk.
and a boulevard there as well.
Yes.
And as you depicted in your presentation, there's no trees or anything.
No.
Okay. So you would be looking to cut that sidewalk and then make an approach. I mean, like, I don't see any here, any of your neighbors with that type of situation, and those that do that you've added in your presentation, like it seems to be,
I think there's 2 houses away from us that has a front approach
Mhm.
that's connecting to the back lane. The other one is far back, far forward, far back, that has another one that's connected to their garage. And the whole Brooklyn Street has 5 houses in total that has front approaches.
okay. So I'll ask the public service as well, like in approximation when those were allowed. Cause I see some that one's a mud driveway, the other one is like gravel tire tracks on a grass yard. And then I can't tell from your aerial shots here with the other ones, another one's a gravel drive. So I'll ask like when they were granted, if any have been granted recently.
In the report, it says the 2 houses that they noted is I think it's before the 2002, before 2002, before the bylaws were made.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just at first glance, this neighborhood doesn't look like it really accommodates front drives. And that's why there's a rear lane with, you know, a potential for a carport and a car that would be parked perpendicular to the house. So that's just what I'm looking at first here, but I'll follow up with the public service on that. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, could you just state your name and your address?
I'm,
Jim. Okay.
all right, good morning.
Yep.
I'm Abraham Bartel. I am a licensed contractor in the city. I work for AJ's Concrete. I'm the president. Anyway, I'm here representing my stepmom and my dad at 309 Booth. The information that I got before me actually was only presented to me yesterday, so I'm sorry if you didn't get all the info or register properly. It's my first time actually going through a committee. I usually get homeowners to do this, so it's a learning experience for me as well. So I'm actually glad that I'm doing this. That's I deal with this on a regular basis. So if I could, I'd like to present each of you a copy of what my stepmom and dad gave me. That's Is that okay?
Okay. All right, is anybody in favor of a suspension of the rules to receive the material after?
To receive
Okay.
material.
All those in favor? Aye, motion
All right.
carried.
So there's copies for each one of you here. I might need one because I'll have to read off that. And then,
Sure.
Yeah, we can share.
oh, yeah, okay. And then there's pictures. I only got 2 sets of this.
Second grade.
You know what, I'll leave.
That's your copy to read.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay. So this application for non-conforming driveway at 309 Booth Drive, I'm just gonna read straight from it. The application needs the approval of the driveway for the following reasons. There are 2 handicapped people living at the address. The patriarch is 79 years old and requires dialysis 3 times a week. He needs a ride by handy transit or other means to pick him up mornings and drop off later. The adopted daughter is 40 and also handicapped. They frequently cannot walk the distance from the house to the street and need the pickup drop-off vehicle close to the house. The back lane is impassable in spring due to the fact that it is very low adjacent to applicant's property and all the snow melt from both ends of the lane. And the adjacent properties accumulates on the low spot in the lane directly adjacent to the 309 Booth Drive. This makes it almost impossible for residents of 309 Booth Drive to access their home in periods of snow melt and freezing, frequently getting stuck and causing damage to their vehicles by the ice scraping the bottom of the vehicles. Handy transit will not pick up or drop off in those conditions, which makes it dangerous in emergency situations. Neighbors to 309 Booth Drive have stated that they have complained to the city of Winnipeg about the hazardous back lane for years, but the city has done nothing to remedy the problem. The proposed driveway off of Booth Drive to the applicant's property does not adversely affect the neighbors or traffic Booth Drive. On the contrary, it will contribute to keeping traffic moving and safe on Booth Drive. So I'll turn the page here. Instead of having a vehicle standing and blocking traffic on Booth Drive while waiting for a pickup or drop off, it can swing in and park on the property and keep Booth Drive open to traffic. For the same reason, the engineer's suggestion of putting a loading zone in the front of the 309 Booth Drive is not all advisable. This would just create a hazard on Booth Drive by having a vehicle parked in the loading zone, blocking traffic. As there's no other parking on the side of the street, this would make a vehicle in the loading zone an extreme hazard and danger to vehicular traffic on Booth Drive, as well as occupants of the vehicle in the loading zone. The suggested loading zone is a dangerous and hazardous option and also does not solve the problem that the distance from the house to the road is often too far for the occupants at Booth Drive to navigate weather. There should be no conflict between pedestrians using the sidewalk and the motor vehicle crossing to access 309 Booth Drive. There are sidewalks on both sides of Booth Drive. There is very light pedestrian traffic on these sidewalks. This proposed driveway does not affect green space in any way, and there is no existing trees that will be affected in any way. The driveway will in no way affect snow clearing on Booth Drive or the sidewalk, and would absolutely no effect on the parking for vehicles across the street. Booth Drive is not a Schedule A or B road. I submit there is no legitimate reason to refuse this application. I therefore respectfully ask this governing body to approve this application for a front driveway for 309 Booth Drive. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions from the councilors? Go ahead, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, are there any other front drives on Booth in this section here? We'll call it from the commercial area off Portage to the yield just north of the Grace?
Not that I'm aware of, sir. On the other side, there are a private access of the booth, I believe, and like accesses to like commercial property, I think. But I'm not aware of anything else.
Yeah, I'm looking at the neighborhood here on our system that's different from what's available to the public. I just don't see any other driveways. You got a couple side drives here off of, sorry, system's loading here as I try to scroll in. Just around the corner from you, past the yield to the east, you have a couple side drives, but other than that, this would really be setting precedents for front drives on Booth. Like everything is taken from the rear. I even go up around to the rear of the north of the Grace Hospital, and again, I don't see any front drives anywhere. And then just in regards to the maintenance of your rear lane to the in-laws there, I mean, your pictures clearly depict that it's like not good situation.
Flooded, yeah.
Yeah.
They can't get the handy transit back there.
Totally. Is there any type of like catch basin there?
They got nothing. Like it's just a pool. It's actually affecting his yard. It's a huge pool in his backyard right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good thing is we have the chair of public works here who might be able to get it looked at for you, but
And the problem too is though, it's like right on an angle, like right on the corner of this back
Yeah.
line. It's really difficult spot for him.
and there's a 2-car garage at the rear of the property, the south east corner.
I believe so, yeah.
And like in some of your images here that I looked at before the hearing, looks like there was work done at to put like another drive aisle parking space beside the garage. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
think for now he was trying to use that, but it's just flooded. He was trying to use that as put gravel down and try to park there, but it's really not working.
Yeah, I agree with you on the argument, the public service. I agree with you on the argument the public service is trying to make of like, hey, we'll put a loading zone. I don't think that's really a great solution, but at the same time, I mean, putting a front drive on a street that has nothing and like.
But in any case, it would.
If I could just finish.
Oh, sorry.
If I could find anything in the neighborhood here that would support that argument, I mean, at least there'd be an argument, but I don't see anything.
I feel like I lapped the city twice and I feel like I've seen a lot of private access approaches that would definitely be in the same category. I think I could probably find like probably 50 if I were. It's just maybe I need to go find them.
Mhm.
But yeah, it wouldn't be something totally out of the ordinary, especially what I've seen out there the last.
So really, at the end of the day, if the issue was resolved, which again, I just went into the street view here on our system, there is no catch basins, but if the issue with the flooding and drainage in general would be resolved, there wouldn't really need to be a front drive.
Well, it's still access for the two handicapped people. Like they really need to be like basically wheelchaired out right at the door.
Yeah.
And
Okay, yeah, no, I hear you on that.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'd like just to make one comment. Booth Drive is rather busy because it does service Lodge and Bruce as well as the school and the hospital. So again, putting a front drive there is, especially near that corner, is kind of questionable.
but in any case, in the winter, which is 6-7 months of the year, they're gonna have that handy transit blocking the street for any traffic, like waiting for my dad to somehow get to handy transit. Which is very difficult as he's and yeah, like they're sitting there for maybe half an hour, like 20 minutes, half an hour till he's out and in the handy transit, right? I don't know. I just think it would be a benefit for the area. I don't think it'd be a negative thing for the neighbors and the people going to the hospital or the lodge that handy transit sitting there.
And we will take that up with the public service.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Delegations.
Thanks.
That's it? Delegations are finished? Okay. Then we shall start with reports. Non-conforming approach, 304 Brooklyn Street.
Let's hear from the public service.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, this is an application to Public Works. The Public Works is recommending that it not be approved. That's with concurrence from our office, urban planning. So we support not approving that application on Brooklyn. And again, this is Public Works' application, but I think there was a couple of questions that the committee had. I just don't recall exactly what those questions are, or if they want to ask those.
Could I just have the one question? Generally, we don't allow front approaches if there's a back alley or something so that they can park in the back. We don't allow.
That's correct. Yeah, it doesn't conform with the private access bylaw. The private access bylaw requires that if you have an improved lane abutting the property, then an approach is not allowed. That's why they needed this non-conforming approach. And our planning and land use policies also support that, that if there's a lane present, that's where vehicles take their access from. In this block, the applicant noted a couple of examples on this block of Brooklyn Street, where there are existing front approaches. Those, as my colleague noted in the report, like those were established prior to 1998, maybe years before that. Certainly before the private access bylaw came into effect and our current planning policies. So they're non-conformities and weren't up, like we don't have the history on those. It's more than 25 years ago that those were established.
Questions to the public service?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, do you have any numbers with regards to distances in the side yard? Like that looks tight and I thought it would look tight to begin with the imaging that we have in our system, but then the imaging that they provided looks even tighter.
Yeah, it's measured at about from the side of that side stairway to the property line. My measurement is approximately 11 feet. With that planter box in there, that it's more like 9.5 or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, typical parking stalls are 8 to 10 feet wide. If this was like a multifamily site, that would be the.
So parking stalls are typically 8 to 10 feet wide, and the distance here between the property line is
About 11 feet is what I'm measuring.
11 feet.
Yeah.
So the neighbor would be right a foot or two from the car,
Yeah.
the vehicle.
So when we do driveways, what is the typical width of I guess we don't do driveways, but the approach?
Yeah, I don't know what Public Works' specifications are. I don't know what they want for the width of an approach, and I know that they expect flaring so that it widens out for turning. I don't see that in the report that Public Works put together as an issue in this case. They didn't include that in the report, so I don't know. But
Any other questions?
So how do we make a motion here? We make a motion and give a reason then? Is that? what the deal is?
Yes, two separate motions. So one with respect to the recommendation of the public service, concurrence or not, and then motion for supporting reasons.
Okay.
Doesn't matter whether you're a counselor, I can do it.
You guys do it.
Okay, all right.
I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and that the application for non-conforming approach be denied.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I'll move that the following supporting reasons be provided, namely that there, it doesn't go with the current guidelines for front approaches in this particular neighborhood, that there is rear access to the property, and that the adjacent properties are using the additional space in the rear yards, although this rear yard seems to have built a structure in that space that also allows for additional parking rather than just the one stall. And that the public service was not in support of this application. Those are my supporting reasons.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Leave that in.
Yes. Next is item 2.
Public service.
Sorry, we'll just need a motion to suspend the rules for the submission.
Motion to suspend the rules for the submission of the applicant.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, so if the public service could give us a little update on 209
3 on.
or 309
309.
booth.
Yes, similar to the last one. The reason this is a non-conforming approach application is because there is a back lane and this is a paved through lane. The Public Works Department is recommending not supporting it. We concur as planners. So we've included some of that language from our land use policies, complete communities, as well. There's comments that are included from the Transportation Division of Public Works that do not support this in particular because of its location along a collector street. Booth is a collector. Typically private approaches for single family use are not supported along collectors. So there's information there that was provided by the Transportation Division of Public Works. So that's the recommendation from Public Works with concurrence from planning.
Okay.
Okay, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Duncan.
Are there any other approaches in the neighborhood that I'm not seeing that would have any precedence to allow for this on this collector?
On Booth Drive, I'm not seeing any other than the approaches to the hospital and other things on the other side of the street. So the all single family properties with frontage on Booth Drive have lane access, and so that's where access is taken.
Go ahead.
Do we have any record from 301 or any other data that shows that these folks have had issues, longstanding issues with drainage in the rear lane? And if we don't have that answer, because you're not Public Works, do we have Public Works to have that answer for us? I'm asking because I'd like to know what the plan is to fix the back lane.
Yeah, I'm not aware other than the photos and information that.
Are we able to find out, Mr. Chair?
Oh,
I'm kind of annoyed by the fact that this item is pretty specific to Public Works, and we have a few representatives from Property and Development here to speak to it, and I don't expect them to give us answers on what the plan is to fix the back lane.
if I can remember correctly, that back lane is low. I think they have to actually lift it in order to make it, or put a drain of some sort in there.
All right, so I'd like to know what the plan is there then, just for the public record, so that if we send these folks away with a know that these people who have accessibility issues can know that they can actually have handy transit or anyone come to their property and pick them up.
Absolutely. I'm sure we can put that in.
I'd like to hear it from the public service if at all possible.
Yeah.
And again, I don't expect this will
Yeah.
hear from property and development.
We know as much as you do just from this submission.
Well, I can wait. It's fine. I can sit here and wait for them. That's the.
I mean, I don't know who the contact person would
Well,
be.
Mr. Nierenek's name is on the report, so I mean, I'm sure he can find somebody for us. Sure. Great. If that's amendable by the committee, I can wait for that answer before I make a decision.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we will wait.
We're gonna contact him. Who contacts him?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, thanks. Now the clerk has agreed to send a email to the director and we'll see. Up to you, we can sit here.
It's up to the committee.
Sure, yeah. Mr. Chair, I can sit and wait, or we can recess, whatever you'd like.
Wanna recess for 5 minutes? See if we can get a hold of the director?
Sure, absolutely. So let's, all those in favor of a 5 or 10 minute recess.
Okay,
Thanks.
so we'll come back at 10:25.
Absolutely.
10:25. Okay.
Okay, we're back. Now, I believe we've got someone from Public Works who's gonna speak to us about the back lane at 309 Booth Drive.
Yes, David Patman is joining us via Zoom today. Hi, David.
Hi there. Just give me a moment. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Hi. Good morning. So I was just added to the meeting very recently, just getting up to speed. It looks like this is a fairly standard rejection from the public service regarding this non-conforming approach.
I have a question. Okay,
Yeah, please.
Good morning, Mr. Patman. Thanks for joining us on short notice. The question around not so much the rejection of the front approach here. We spoke with the delegate earlier just in regards to, this being on a collector street, there is rear access and there are no other approaches in the neighborhood. However, the issue around accessibility in the rear lane, and we've been provided with images that the committee accepted by suspension of the rules in regards to some pretty serious flooding back there, and the applicant being an individual who uses Handy Transit, Transit Plus, and not being able to access the rear lane. So I know that this might not fall in your wheelhouse in particular, but is there any data on how many complaints there's been regarding drainage in this rear lane, and a plan to address the clear drainage issues that are occurring there so that all properties can be accessed from the rear lane?
Don't have information on that right at hand, but I can understand the rationale that the applicant is bringing up. I think there's perhaps a need for some flexibility on this just because of the accessibility issue. And if there is flooding, if it is impossible to make use of it throughout the entire year, then perhaps there's a need for flexibility on behalf of the public service.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the location is not ideal for, in my opinion, is not ideal for a front approach, being close to the intersection and adjacent to the Grace Hospital. However, I'm more concerned about this property being accessed period, if there's this kind of flooding going on in their back lane. I don't know what the public service would be able to do to address the applicant said that there's no catch basins in that area of the lane. I don't know if there's anything, and again, I know this isn't your area of expertise, but is there anything that you could suggest that we pursue further to remedy the issues in the back lane?
I have to talk to the specialists about that. We do mention in the report that a possible low-cost solution is to come up with a loading zone on Booth Drive in front of the residence property. That would be like a low-cost, first sort of solution. A longer-term solution would be to look at the drainage issues that are happening and try and find a long-term fix to that.
Okay, you know what, I think, Mr. Patman, our concern is the drainage at the back. We see no catch basin, but maybe what we can do is have one of the street inspectors, I'll follow up on this and have one of the street inspectors come out, look at the situation and just give us some recommendations on what could be done to deal with the drainage.
Yeah, if that information could be then, like if we could get that back at the public service, then we can then act upon that, find some alternatives perhaps.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, so if there's any other questions or I can make a motion?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the application for the non-confirming approach be denied. So that's my motion. Do we call the question or?
All those in favor?
All those in favor,
Aye.
right?
Opposed, carried.
Now, I will give the following supporting reasons. I'm very concerned about the access point being on Booth as it is a collector road. I'm familiar with this. I'm familiar with the medical facility. I'm concerned about the access point in and out. It is accessing a very large parking lot, provides access to that, and it is on a corner, and or not a parking lot, I'm sorry. Well, it does connect through, you can connect, but I'm very concerned about it being on a corner. I know myself, we've put in many accessible parking spots where County Transit can come, Transit Plus can come. And it won't add to much congestion on Booth, more so than a driveway. So the reason is Booth is a collector. It's across from a large facility. There's a lot of traffic on Booth. And I will address the back. I'll get some recommendations from the public service and see what they have to say about the back. So that's my reasoning.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? That's okay.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, carried.
Okay. All right. And now we're on to public hearings, I believe.
Yes, would you like to get into the hearings?
Do you want a break or let's start the hearings? Let's just,
Yeah.
you want a break?
It's up to you.
Okay,
No,
let's
we're good.
find Mr. Reagan hearings.
Okay, we're gonna start the hearings then. Do I have to do the normal?
There is a little preamble. You can just summarize and start the public hearings.
Okay.
Oh, so all of that being, and then we can have that signed.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to continue on to the public hearings, the Assiniboine Community Committee meeting, April 28th, 2025. My name is Councillor Duffs and I'll be the chair. Councillor Duncan and Councillor Lukes are with us. We have with us from Public Service, Mrs. Cohen, and a couple members of the Public Service.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a subdivision and rezoning at 202 Duffield Street under file DASZ 3 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 2 is a variance at 202 Duffield Street under file DAB 101327 of 2025D. Please note communications were received in support of and in opposition to the application, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Good morning. The property is located on the Field Street in the Deer Lodge neighborhood of St. James Ward. The property is zoned R1L Residential Single Family Large District, and the application is for subdivision and rezoning to RMFM Residential Multifamily Medium District for the purpose of building a 9-unit residential building and widening the public lane. The Urban Planning and Design Division recommends approval with conditions, including a zoning agreement for a director plan approval and a building height limit. Reason for support, the subject proposal aligns with the above, aligns with the applicable policies of mature communities and the complete communities directional strategy 2.0 infill guidelines, airport vicinity protection area in the following ways. The property complies with scenario 2 of the preferred location criteria for low-rise multifamily residential buildings in area 1. Since the property is located on a street where where the rear yard abuts a lane, it is within 400 meters of primary transit network or rapid transit station at Portage Avenue. A lane separates the south property line from a commercial use on 2145 Portage Avenue, and the site is an interior corner lot. The property is located in the airport vicinity protection area 2, where new or replacement single-family residential dwellings and multiple family residential dwellings may be constructed. The development will help achieve residential intensification targets. It will positively contribute to the surrounding neighborhood by providing additional housing options. It will utilize existing infrastructure, including the street network, active transportation paths, water and wastewater service capacity, and the city services such as seniors healthcare center and residents, a social center, recreational and educational services. It meets the relevant site and building design policies. And the rezoning application, it is associated with a variance application to vary the lot area, yard setbacks, parking, and buffering requirements of the zoning bylaw. The Urban Planning and Design Division recommends approval of the variance items with conditions, including substantial conformance, a light-proof fence between the parking stalls and the building, and a building height limit. The Urban Planning recommends approval of the variance application since proposed development is consistent with the plan of Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plans. It does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and the adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway. It is a minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant property, and it is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Thank you. Okay, so I have some questions to the public service.
Go ahead.
So talk to me about, I see this a lot, why you like to do infills at the end of a street versus middles, or is there a preference, or? In this situation, or in general, at the end of the block, it doesn't disrupt the coherence or the character of the area. also in this case, it is adjacent to a commercial property where is less effect in comparison when it is between two single family dwellings. Yeah, Less impact. less impact. Okay.
It will be also gradual transition between commercial and single family.
Right. And what is the approximate, I forget what you call it, the term, but there's a certain ratio of density per square foot, you know, like
Lot area per dwelling.
lot area per dwelling. Okay, so what is it in the report here and what can it be up to?
So under RMFM, they can have a density of 800 square footage per dwelling unit. And according to the property, the bulk of the area, they are providing 888.8 square footage. So they are exceeding the minimum.
So they're
Density.
exceeding the minimum density. Okay, and sorry, what was the parking ratio again?
1-to-1. It's compliant, no
One-
variance.
Oh, yes, because now, does this fall under the malls and corridors
It just,
thing?
this does not fall. It's just adjacent abutting the property to the south on
Okay.
Portage is one of the properties in the malls and corridors. So we expect maybe in the future that location may be changed into something.
Okay, but right now it doesn't fall under malls and corridors.
The property, it does not fall. The property to the west, to the south, it falls, but it can be changed, like something in the future can be established, like built in accordance with the malls and corridors, but the existing one is under the existing zoning bylaw.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that.
Okay, if Portage Avenue address would be considered a corridor. but
Yeah,
Because it's
right.
behind the back lane, the first house, it's not considered corridor. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's no Portage Avenue address. Okay. All right. Now, what is the current status of parking on the street? Is it restricted or is it, is there any restrictions on parking on the street on Duffield? Do we know?
I can check.
Okay, if you could check, that'd be great. And in regards to Portage Avenue, well, I don't know how many there are, but I know there's countless buses that are on Portage Avenue, right? Does it say here in the report? Is there anything in the report that speaks to transit? I didn't really see it. Yes, page 20. Okay, so the subject site is located at 148 feet South Portage Avenue.
Portage Avenue is considered a rapid route under the transportation long-term,
Right. It's gonna have
Yeah.
high frequency transit.
rapid route.
Okay,
Line back.
And for the question related to street parking, street parking is not restricted on Duffield Street.
it's not restricted on Duffield.
Yeah, we can't have presentations here from the gallery, excuse me.
You'll hear when your turn
You're
comes.
registered, you'll speak, otherwise nothing from the gallery, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay,
Just to clarify, there is, just as looking at it, I see a sign for 1 hour, but in any case, there's limited, it's free parking, but it's limited, unless you have a residential pass.
Sorry, you ask the question again? I didn't hear.
is there any parking restrictions on the street of Duffield?
And it looks like, just looking on Street View that there is, time limits. It's free, but it's, limited
1 hour parking.
to 1 hour
1
parking.
hour parking, okay. Okay, and then I guess the other question that I have is, just so that I can have some sort of comparison, okay? So, further down at 2187 and 2193 Portage Avenue, there's 2 apartment blocks. I believe they're apartment blocks, hold on here. Right, so all those, red brick blocks, right? Like the Lady Conway and the Hastings apartments and all of those. What sort of parking ratios? I mean, those were built back in the day, right? They've been around.
Probably 1950s or 60s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What sort of parking ratio do those things have? Do we have any idea?
Did you look at that in the report? Yes.
Like, just so I have, like, if I look at 2193 and 2199, I don't really see any parking. I see a little bit behind, like maybe 10 spots or something. I don't think they have underground parking. I don't know. It's not my area. Do you know, Councillor Dobson, what's going on with those blocks? Do they have? I don't think they have underground parking.
No, they don't. Not for those particular
So
things.
just
They have
kind of-
parking in the back.
Parking in the back, in the neighborhood, whatever. Okay. And there's a.
I can add that each one of these has 24 units. So it's way less than 1-to-1 parking ratio.
Way less to 1-to-1. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, I don't have any more questions from the public service right now. Does anyone? Councillor Duncan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so when creating this report, did you compare any other the surrounding areas? I'm looking right now at Woodlawn Street, 203 Woodlawn Street, that seems to be similar in size with the actual property dimensions, and then the ask of number of feet at 34.35 feet, and it's 3 stories tall. Is there any comparisons in the neighborhood here? And please, I don't want to talk about what's on Portage Avenue. I want to talk what's on the residential streets here.
Not on Woodlawn.
You didn't look at Woodlawn on the other side of the Deer Lodge?
Are there any over there?
There's one specific
So it
building
is
at
at
203
the
that
corner.
looks the exact same. That's
At
what,
the corner, there is 16 units, 16 unit multifamily.
Which corner of what?
203 Woodlawn is the address.
203 Woodlawn has
So
a similar unit, is that?
The
what
other
you're saying?
side, the other side of Deer Lodge. From here.
Okay.
It's also, was established back in the days before even 1998, and it has very low density with respect to the lot size.
do you know what the density of 203 Woodlawn is?
Yeah, it's 686 compared to 888 we have on this
Do we
proposal.
know specifically how many units are at 203 Woodlawn?
16 units.
16 units.
16 units.
That proposal at 202, the field is 9 units only.
Okay, so the difference of the neighboring zones is R1M on Woodlawn and R1L on Duffield, is that correct?
The zoning, I would check.
The zoning is C2.
Yeah.
So it's the same. For residential uses, it's the same zoning standards. What's proposed for Duffield is RMFM. And that's the same for any residential use on a C2 property. It's also up to
If
the,
that was compliant, but this wouldn't be compliant with the current C2.
that's right.
This
Yeah.
is more like RMFL, right, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out here how it fits in the context of the neighborhood. Because it is like, we can talk about how it's close to Portage Avenue, but it's not on Portage Avenue, right?
Right.
And that's what we're gonna hear, I'm assuming from the delegations, but I won't say we'll for sure. I'm trying to ask you, and I've got an address here for you, 203 Woodlawn seems to be very similar, but
And sorry, how many units are in 203 Woodlawn?
16.
16, and there's smaller size of unit is what you're saying.
Yeah, smaller density.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, are there any more?
So currently there seems to be quite a parking pad in the back of this lot at 202 Duffield. I see on this image on our system that there's 4 cars parked there at that point in time, but clearly enough room for 6 cars.
Yeah, currently that they could fit more than the 4 that are there. And then with the plans of development, for the proposed development,
They're
it's,
providing 9 parking stalls. So they're compliant with the requirement of the zoning bylaw for the city. Ratio 1:1.
So just show us on the drawings here, like I'm looking at the drawings. I'm not really seeing, oh, here we go. I guess it's on page 24, exhibit 9. Somehow that shows the 9 parking spots. Is that it? That's the only one?
Exhibit 4. Yeah.
Exhibit 9.
page 24.
Trying to
Correct.
Yeah. I'm trying to find one that shows a better one, but. Okay, so that shows where the 9 parking goes, okay? And there is sewer capacity, it sounds like, right? This is interesting that we have a kind of a report here that speaks to it, that there's adequate servicing. Okay, so that's good. All right. So this is for 9 units. 9. Okay. Okay, I have no more questions.
Go ahead, Councilor Duff.
Okay, so and we'll have an opportunity, I'm sure, to ask in regards to the 818 architecture plans here, but the garbage enclosures are where on this? Like I see I'm assuming that the row at the back is for the parking. I see enclosed structure setback. Where are they gonna have room for 9 garbage?
Yeah, they have the garbage enclosure and this will be private pickup,
Oh, here it was then.
private collection. 9 units, 9 bin.
Towards the north side of the lot.
They don't put like a bin, it's like 9 regular bin, like rolling carts, is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's the rolling carts.
Yeah.
These are just apartments, they're not condos.
Yeah. These are 3 units, each floor 3 units.
Apartments.
Yeah.
Bike rack parking. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
If they were city collected garbage, then the city would require for 8 units and above, the city would require a different kind of garbage containers for the development. But because these are privately, garbage will be privately picked up from the location. That's why.
Why are they private?
If they had 8 or more, like if they were using city collection, they'd be required to have a BFI or, something similar to that. I guess the applicant might be able to confirm, but I imagine it's just a matter of space. It's if they have private collection, they can use these rollout bins. And
So they don't
Save
have
a little
city, they
space.
have private collection. Okay, all right. Okay. They have an accessible parking the 2 potential accessible parking lots,
They have one assigned accessible right.
1 signed. Okay. And do they have to provide, what does the bylaw say about visitor parking?
Yeah, they have to provide a ratio 1, 10%. So they have provided the required 1 visitor parking.
So you have 1 visitor parking, 1 accessible parking, and then 7 other parking spots.
Yeah.
For tenants.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Just a question around
Another question?
Yeah, so just around the height of the structure here, it looks like we have a wood frame structure that has a peaked roof. So we're at 34 feet, 4 inches and change. Is that correct?
Yeah, 34.35 foot tall.
What's the height of let's say somebody didn't want to build a multi-unit here and wanted to build a house here, what could they build up to?
So under R1, L, they can build, zoning bylaw requires, 35 feet height, but, with the new mature community PDO, which this one,
With what?
The
mature community PDO
Okay,
will be around 28 feet.
28.
Yeah,
Okay.
under RMF, the permitted height is 70 feet. That's why we are recommending adding a zoning agreement to limit the height to 40 feet. In case a design has changed for any reason after acquiring the new zoning, they are limited to 40 feet.
Oh.
Okay, so they're
good.
going for M, which would allow them to go up to 70 feet. And how many units?
Depends how many you want to.
They wouldn't be able to get too many more units because their density is 888 square
They could
feet.
continue to stack up 3 by
Yeah.
3, right?
But the building, like, I don't think they could.
But it wouldn't make sense economically.
make-
but
yeah.
How many? Like 21?
21 units.
Yeah, if they
Uh,
3 a floor,
they could-
7 floors.
Probably only like another unit or so before they start to get too dense for the M zoning they're proposing.
Oh, okay, right, because it goes by square footage.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're depicting at 34 and change. We're going to cap them, is the recommendation of the public service at 40? What is and then there's always a discussion around the building height is to the what point? I can hear it by one of the presenters.
To the midpoint, in this case for this slope, to the midpoint of the roof,
So in reality, how high is this building actually?
to the top.
Uh-huh. And again, I can ask the presenter.
Yeah, I don't think they're showing that on their plan submitted. They're just showing what the city looks for, what PPD looks for, which is the midpoint. But
So you had mentioned 35 feet, but that doesn't really apply because again, this is a mature community.
Mature community PDO only applies to up to 3 units.
so if they were doing a single family
Yeah.
at this location, the height would be limited to 28 feet to the midpoint of the roof, of a peaked roof.
So the 35 feet comes into play where?
Outside of the mature communities area,
Okay, so not really applicable here.
it wouldn't because we now have the mature communities.
Okay. So they could build up to 28 feet, single family on this lot with a further peak at the top. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if we could get the number of how tall this building actually is, that'd be helpful sometime during the presentation. That's all my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have one further question. The hospital directly across the street, how high is that? Just curious,
We can have a look here.
or,
Yeah.
guess. Appears to be a 3-story.
Yeah, I think that's correct, that it's 3 stories.
Yes.
We can just, I'll quickly,
Plus
Give a r-
elevator access, okay.
sure. So the main elevation is 12 meters. I guess that would be what in feet, 36 feet or so. And then there's an elevator core, that's
More.
yeah, about 15, just over 15 meters in height. So 3-story building.
Yep, okay. That's all my questions.
Right. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do the applicants.
Great. So first to be heard is the applicant, Chris Thorne, speaking in support of the application. And Chris is with us in person today.
I have a presentation, I just plug it into the.
You just plug your USB into the, and then share the screen in Zoom.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So go down to Zoom and then the green button in the middle there, share screen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm presenting on behalf of the owners for 202 Duffield Street. I'm Chris Thorne with Chris Thorne Consulting, and I was retained by the owners to lead the engagement process of this proposal, as well as present today. So just a quick summary of the proposal. We are applying to rezone the property from R1 single family residential to RMFM. The proposed building would be 3 stories in height with a total of 9 multifamily units and 9 parking stalls accessed directly from the rear lane. Proposal meets the criteria of the city's infill guidelines, and the city planning department is supportive of the development as proposed. So just some site context. 202 Duffield is located on a corner lot, has a front width of 58.2 feet, rear width of nearly 85 feet, and a total size just under 8,000 square feet. There's a large commercial property directly across the lane to the south. Portage Avenue is roughly 70 meters away, and Deer Lodge is just directly across Duffield Street there. And then there's single family residential properties directly to the north and then to the west across the lane there. So planning context, won't get too far into this. Planning department has covered this, but it meets the criteria for low-rise multi-units under scenario 2. So city consultation that the owners undertook, I will just summarize. So starting back in June of 24, the department confirmed their support of a 9-unit multifamily dwelling, and they recommended following the infill guidelines with the design. And then Water and Waste confirmed the site could accommodate up to 10 dwelling units. And then further in the summer, so preliminary plans were presented to the planning department. We received positive feedback. They also suggested doing community consultation, which we undertook. And then finally, the rezoning application was submitted on August 23rd. And then in September of 24, zoning informed us Public Works was going to require that land from the property was going to be required for future lane widening. So they took 1 meter from the south property line and then a 3x3 meter corner cut. So you can see on this slide here, just the sort of southern property line and then a small corner cut along the back lane. So as a result of that, we had to significantly redesign the building. We needed to decrease the building width. And then we requested a slightly deeper building towards the south side. And then the city planners confirmed their support of these new plans. So just some comments on the site plan, and to confirm, yes, it is private garbage collection that we're doing, and that was in order to provide the required number of parking stalls. Don't get a discount on our property taxes, but that's okay. Let's see what else. Also wanted to note that we are meeting the requirements for lot coverage. We're at 38%. The maximum is 42%, and we were at 35% lot coverage before the lane widening. And as mentioned, the building height is under the required height. Okay. This is the east elevation. So this is the side facing Duffield Street. So we're using a few different types of building materials, a combination of stacked brick, board and batten, and lap siding. And you'll note 6 out of the 9 balconies are oriented towards Duffield Street, Deer Lodge. Now this is the west elevation that faces the back lane. So 5 out of the 10 windows that you see there are just located in the stairwell to provide natural light. And then the other 5 windows are in bedrooms, so they're required to be on that elevation. And then sort of in the bottom left-hand corner, that's the garbage enclosure. And just to the right of that is some bicycle parking. Okay, so this is the north elevation. So this is the elevation or the side, which is the only shared property line with any neighbors. So just to visualize it, there's going to be a 6-foot tall wooden fence going in, but we've removed that just in this rendering. So you'll see there's 2 bedroom windows there, but there will be a 6-foot tall fence that's screening that. The side yard setback on this side will be 6 feet 8 inches, but above the main floor, it's stepped back a further 3 feet. So on the second and third floor, the setback will be 9 feet 8 inches. This is the south elevation. So this faces the side lane and the commercial property. So the last 3 out of the 9 balconies face in this direction. And the cladding materials were a combination of stucco, board and batten siding, and stacked brick. Some quick comments on the floor plans. So our initial design before the lane widening was all 2-bed, 2-bath units. We had to shrink the building, so we lost some area. So we now have 2 1-bed, 1-bath units, and then 1 2-bed, 1-bath unit, and then the rest are 2-bed, 2-bath. Okay, so community engagement. So beginning in July of 24, we did extensive community engagements to meet residents, introduce the project, and listen to their questions and concerns. So July 24th, knocked on the doors for all houses on this same block of Duffield, and then the houses to the west on Sharp Boulevard that share the back lane. Then in early August, we did a second round of door knocking to try and get people who hadn't been there the first time. And then did an additional meeting the following week to meet with a few owners who had wanted to speak with me, but just weren't around the first 2 times I had stopped by. And then the following day, I did a virtual open house that I had passed out letters for. It was well attended, and there was lots of questions, and I sort of went over the project at a high level. We also got several signatures of support from neighbors on Duffield Avenue. In particular, we got a signature of support from the neighbor at 202 Duffield, which is the property directly to the north of 202 Duffield. And it's the only property this 202 Duffield shares a property line with. So they are supportive of the project.
It was 204 Duffield.
Is that 202 and 202? Oh, sorry. So 204 Duffield is the neighbor to the north. This one is 202.
And that would be the one with that'll have the windows that are currently will be hidden by the 6-foot fence.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So through discussions with neighbors, several items came up frequently. So we worked to address these in the project design as best as we could. So when it came to traffic, that was a common one that came up. They had concern about the increased traffic from the development, especially in the back lane. Traffic from a 9-unit building is typically fairly minimal and can be easily accommodated within the existing road capacity. And Public Works considered this in the rezoning application and didn't raise any concerns. Parking is another one that came up. So as mentioned before, we are providing 9 stalls for 9 dwelling units, which meets the infill guidelines. The site is very well serviced by transit. Portage Avenue is 70 meters away, and there's access to a lot of routes heading west and east, and we are providing bicycle parking on site. Again, the building height is going to be 34 feet 4 inches to the midpoint of the roof. No variance is required. I think I got the maximum height for the single family zoning district incorrect. I guess it's 28 feet. And as I mentioned, the building is stepped back on the second and third floor to reduce shadow impacts on the neighbor to the north. Construction impact was another one that came up. I guess there was a large apartment building that got built just across Portage Avenue, and it was quite noisy from the pile to get driven in. And we just explained that for low-rise multifamily construction typically uses poured-in-place piles, so it's not a disruption on the scale of piles that get driven into the ground. When it came to privacy, as I mentioned, there will be a 6-foot tall fence along the north property line. I just have maybe 1 more minute. Move extension for 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
Okay, privacy. So no windows above the main floor on that north building elevation. Balconies are all oriented towards the east elevation and south elevation, away from the single family homes. In terms of density, the location meets the criteria for the infill guidelines. There's adequate sewer and water capacity. And then the 9 units is very comfortably accommodated on this site, and we're not requiring any density variances or parking variances. And we reduced the size of 2 of the units. In terms of trees, we hired an arborist. We are retaining a tree on the southeast corner of the property. And then 2 other existing trees are unfortunately going to be in the city's lane widening area, and will have to be removed. But we are providing new shrubs and trees in excess of what's required by the infill guidelines. So just to quickly summarize, the project meets the stated objectives and requirements of the city's planning documents. We work very closely with the city's planning department, Public Works, Water and Waste, and we have a plan that's 100% supported. We did extensive community consultation, incorporated some of the feedback into the design in order to be as courteous to the surrounding community as possible. And we're providing much needed missing middle housing to the area, including some affordable suites. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question.
Super. Can you go back to your beginning slides? I just want a
Sure.
clarification on something
Which
related to when you first made the application, or, okay, that's.
Oh, that was,
Okay,
oh, yeah,
June
okay,
24.
yes,
Okay, so the planning department confirmed their support of the 9-unit multifamily dwelling, and then you followed all the infill guidelines.
correct,
So
yeah,
this all meets the council approved infill guidelines.
correct.
Okay, so at that point, Water and Waste told you could accommodate up to 10 dwellings.
Correct.
So my concern is you didn't hear until September that the Public Works wanted 1 meter of road?
That's right.
You didn't hear till September. They couldn't tell you in June?
That's when we heard back from Public Works. So
And then you had to redo your whole design.
that's right.
Okay, so that's interesting. Not good. Okay.
Yeah, well, while you're there, I have a question. That 3 meter by 3 meter corner cut, that is for,
I guess that I'm just guessing here, but I'm assuming it has to do with like turning radius.
for the garbage trucks to make the corner, I guess.
I'm just guessing, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about parking.
Sure.
So, so you got a 1-to-1 ratio. How does a 1-to-1 ratio align with one being a visitor parking?
That's a good question.
And maybe that's a public service question if you.
Yeah, that might be a public,
Okay,
all,
yeah.
all I'm aware of is that we meet the parking requirements.
Sure, okay. Because I think there is a requirement for visitor parking in the bylaws or something, but we'll come back to that. Okay, good question?
Yeah, just on the parking front, did you guys ever explore the ride share option? As I wasn't involved at that stage of the project, but as far as I know, I don't think it was, because we could provide 1-to-1. Not to get off topic, but I know with, the malls and corridors plan, you're only required, half a stall per unit, so to provide 1-to-1, I think is quite good these days.
And so you did all your, let's go to the consultation slides.
Sure.
So you did all your consultation slides. So what was the biggest positive and what was the biggest pushback?
From the city or from
No, from
the?
the public.
Oh, from the public, okay. Let's pull that up. Yeah, I would say parking was brought up frequently. That seems to be a common concern with infill projects. And I think the reason being for that is the parking restrictions on Duffield. And I believe there's some on Sharp Boulevard as well. So I think it has to do with Deer Lodge Center. So that might not be a question for me. That might be a discussion with the city of what can be done to kind of alleviate some of that so that maybe there's more on-street parking available without restrictions for residents.
Okay, so parking was the pushback and what else? Anything else?
Traffic. I guess there's already quite a bit of traffic that goes apparently to the commercial building to the south of us, and they kind of zoom down the back lane. So the thought was maybe that there might be a similar effect from this building. Again, it's 9 units. I don't think it'll be on the scale of what is happening with the commercial strip there. And I'm again making assumptions, but people typically leave for work in the morning and they're back at the end of the day and they're not coming and going sort of all day at high speeds.
Any positive feedback?
Yeah, the neighbor to the north that was supportive of the project was quite excited for it.
The one right beside the building.
The one right beside it. Yeah, she was quite excited for that. I think people are always just sort of curious what's happening and want to learn more about it. People seemed happy that the balconies were being oriented kind of away from the residential. That's privacy is always a concern when you have say we hadn't oriented the balconies that way and you have balconies sort of staring into people's backyards, which that's understandable. So I'd say those are some of the main things that came up.
So from the standpoint of, and you may not know this, but I'm wondering what sort of interest the owner has had on actual rentals, right? Like I know the one of the big ones across the street that went in, the one with the pounding of the piles. I know that their rental is a high uptake. I'm just wondering, have you heard anything about, often when buildings are being built, people go, oh, I might want to move in there, or, is there any kind of feedback like that?
I can't speak to that. I just know typically this would be pretty early on to kind of start advertising for that sort of thing when occupancy might be a year and a half or 2 years away. But that's a good sign if the building across the street is fully occupied or almost fully occupied, but it's a lot of units that went in there.
Well, not a lot of new units that have been going in this area, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and for the apartments themselves, and I think we have to comply to this, if I'm not mistaken, in the bylaws, that the widths of the hallways are wheelchair accessible and, the door entry points and all of that.
Yeah, I sorry, I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved in the design of the floor plans themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Councillor Duncan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. A couple fronts here. First, on the surrounding neighborhood and some of the feedback that you got, I noticed that there were several people on Sharp, which backs on to the lane, shares the lane with Duffield there. Did you have any discussion with any of those residents and what was kind of the
Yeah, I think,
that they gave?
yeah, the main feedback from the residents on Sharp had to do with back lane traffic and privacy.
Okay.
I believe they might have, if there's some residents here today, they might have some other concerns, obviously, but those are the two main ones that I remember.
And did you get the sense that any of those concerns were resolved in your consultation? I'm sure you went through a few different iterations of this design.
Yeah, I mean, I met with a few different residents. Could be a chance that not everyone who wanted to speak with me was able to, but I would like to think that we did as well as we could with the design, given that we the balconies are oriented away from them, yeah, I think the design works quite well.
Okay. And the other, Jason, I'm looking at some of the folks that registered, like in the surrounding area. Did you go to any of the other streets and get a sense of what their concerns would be? I'm not following exactly, but we'll hear hopefully from some of them that.
Yeah, so we sort of followed the city's guidelines for community consultation for a project of this scale. And I believe that was the recommendation for the scale of the project, was sort of talk to the neighbors who are immediately impacted, and that would be sharing the back lane and then on the same street as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then across the street is the Deer Lodge and then some other programming that's going on there. Did you guys explore anything that was going on there and any concerns that they might?
I think we, at one point an attempt was made, but it was big organization, wasn't quite sure who to get in touch with.
Okay. So you settled on 3 floors and 34 feet and change. Why did you go with that number?
With 3 floors?
Yeah, 3 floors,
Yeah.
34-ish feet. Why that number?
Oh, good question. So that was you kind of, when you're doing a site layout, you work within the setbacks and you look at similar projects for guidance. And it was a design that made sense. The units would have been quite small, for example, if you tried to do, say, 4 or 5 units per floor. So I'd say this is fairly typical design for a 9-plex. I guess hearing now we could have gone up to 4 stories, but it reaches a point where it's just too much stairs. So three stories seemed like an adequate number of stories.
So is this project targeting any particular demographic potentially? Or?
I can't speak to that. So I'm not too sure there. I think it's just they're designed as fairly typical suites. I think a bit larger than normal. Like having the second bathroom for a 2-bedroom unit isn't typical. I think that will be quite popular.
Okay, if I have any other questions, we'll circle back after.
Okay, I've got one question. There's no basement, so this is slab construction?
I'm not sure on the building design, so it will likely either be a crawl space or a slab.
Okay. Councillor Donkey, go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson. You prompted my memory to get back on track of my second question, just in regards to the decision around the 3 floors above grade. Did you look at any of the other projects that have been approved recently that, have a half submersed first floor? And
yeah, I wasn't involved in that stage of the building design. I was just hired for community consultation and to present today. I'm sure that was considered. I do know the sort of common complaint with that is they're kind of basement units. Above grade is always preferred as living space. So I'm sure that's why they went with that decision.
Go ahead.
Sorry, one more question. It's good to have lots of questions. So what's the game plan for snow removal, I guess? This is always an issue, right? So who does the snow removal? Do we know? Is it the tenants or is it probably not, eh? It's the building owner?
Yeah, typically like with an apartment building, we'll either have a caretaker whose job will be to clear the snow. For the parking area, it'll normally get cleared onto the nearest sort of patch of grass, and we'll do the walkways as well. Or if there's no caretaker, they would likely hire sort of a third party contractor to take care of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Makes total sense. Just to be clear, all the balconies face either towards the hospital or towards Portage?
That's right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, next is registered as Tajinder Singh, but Tajinder I don't see in the gallery today, registered in support of the application. So just confirming that there is no one in the gallery looking to speak in support of this application. No, okay, we'll move on to opposition. So first to speak is Kelly Ryback, who's joining us in person today.
This is your pen. No. Okay, I'll just get plugged in. To share. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm a concerned citizen of the area. This is the previous presentation.
Nice. We thought you went to the consulting side.
Here we go. All right. First off, this is a very large structure. And
So do you mind if I just double check just to make sure you're
okay,
let's just stop
screen sharing meeting. I can share.
and then try this one again. This was still showing.
Okay, we're good now.
You're good.
Okay, now we're gonna officially start. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is a very large structure surrounded by single family homes that, you know, if I go back to a previous council meeting where Councillor Mays referenced a report that said that the shortage that the city has is in single family residential homes and that are affordable. The $300,000 mortgage is about $1,500 a month. And what this would do is take an affordable home, single family home off the market. It's requesting a variance of 6.5 feet on the to the neighbor to the north. There's reference to 203 Woodlawn. That's not an apples to apples comparison. 203 Woodlawn has significant larger, greater distance to the north property. It is only 2.5 stories with a flat roof. So it doesn't have the height, doesn't have the proximity to the north property, if you're comparing it to 203 Woodlawn. When you look at the distance, there's discussion about Deer Lodge Hospital, that the distance from the homes to the hospital, you're looking at 30 feet, a sidewalk, a boulevard, the road, the handy transit drop off. boulevard, sidewalk, lawn before you get to the building. So it's not, it's not same shading comparison compared to this property. Going back to 203 Woodlawn, the shading on the west side of the Woodlawn property does not impact any residences or impact any privacy to the west because it's Deer Lodge Center that's on the opposite side of the road, not a narrow back lane. Same thing with boulevard sidewalks. Okay. The property it was listed at 77,999 square feet. But if you take out what the city is going to need for the back lane, that's probably 470 to 500 square feet taken off the property size. When you look at the parking, the picture on the left, that is typical 7 days a week on Duffield. It is 1 hour restricted. It's also quite busy in the evening compared to other residential streets. And across the street, you have constant drop off from Handy Transit, etc. They have their own lane for that, but it is busy, busy, busy. On top of the parking, for 5 streets, there is restricted parking, 1 or 2 hours, 1 hour on Woodlawn, 2 hours everywhere else, even to the blocks to the north. So you're looking at 7 to 8 blocks of restricted parking, and that is Woodlawn, Guildford, Duffield, Sharp, and Moorgate. It is a very busy area because you have a funeral home, 2 dentist offices, an extremely popular restaurant, High Tea Bakery is another location. To give you a comparison, across the street is a brand new apartment block, 7 stories high, between the Capri and the Thunderbird, and a 2-bedroom, 2-bath rent there is $1,900 a month. Okay, parking is of extreme concern. Of course, the residents, if they want to park on the street for extended time, they do have to buy those permits. It was the number one concern is parking. Number 2, if you allow this, what else do you allow anywhere else in the neighborhood? And then the busyness of the street, the back lane is busy with not only traffic, but kids play basketball in the driveways to their, whether or not they have garages, cycling, and people cutting around because if they can't find parking on Sharp, they're going to use the back lane, and of course the back lane traffic from all those area businesses. It is a busy community. I informed and canvassed the neighborhood. And in that neighborhood, that received 39 in opposition. The actual forms were submitted. You can look at the addresses. Every person I spoke to on Sharp was in opposition that answered the door. I probably would have had more door answers if there wasn't an election or a hockey game on. In the other areas, on those other streets in the same neighborhood, they feel for the people on Duffield, and 86.7% opposed, and people I spoke to only 4.4% in favor. And the homeowner directly to the north, I had a nice conversation with, a wonderful lady. Her lifestyle is not typical. I'm not going to describe that here because of privacy, but if you want to know that, it is not a typical lifestyle when you look at impacts of a project of this size neighboring that person's property. Areas of concern, they purchased in a single dwelling community. This project's not desirable. Additional demand on the street parking, additional traffic on the street in the back lane, road safety concerns I addressed, the increased noise, loss of privacy. The 2 balconies that are on the north side that face east, on that design, they're glass and open, so they can look over into the neighboring property. So they do face to the north. Loss of sky view and river view, depending on the resident's property, loss of sunlight. One person even cited inability to grow their garden if something like this went up beside them. And you look at the increase of food costs and food security because you can't grow a garden in the shade. Frequent turnover of renters is a concern. Increased road flooding.
Yeah, that's not right.
Increased versus somebody who buys a home and stays there for 30 years.
That's discriminating against renters and I don't agree with that.
You can address in question period if you want. Increased road flooding. Mayor Gillingham has been on the street overseeing crews to ensure the roads get cleared because areas of Duffield flood every year. And that's what one concerned resident told me. Mayor Gillingham in his career has also ensured that the parking authority makes more frequent patrols because of people overstaying the restricted hours. And people are concerned about if this went up beside them or near them, the reduced property values and desirability and being longer to the market. You had a similar application on October 199 Parkview Street. At that one, the public service did not recommend that project and only recommended a duplex. The big difference on this one is the Duffield location was, the Parkview was north, so therefore it wasn't an issue of blocking the sunlight. It was over 30 feet tall, 8 units, and this committee decided at that time to decrease it to 6 units and to follow the infill guidelines of that area of 28 feet. And that was offered by Councillor Dobson. So this is a very similar property in the same neighborhood. So I would ask you to go back to and use the same criteria that you used for 199 Parkview as you used that to be used for 202 Duffield. And this is even worse because it's south of the neighborhood versus Parkview being north of the neighborhood. They only shaded the commercial property in the back lanes. And that property, there was a variance request for 6 feet and you had that extended to 8 feet. So I'm asking you also to apply that to this property. If you want to do that, then the public service did not recommend, and again, going back to the duplex. I'm asking you on behalf of 39 people that signed the petition, deny the proposed application, modify the application for the project to meet the infill guideline as you did at Parkview and of 28 feet or less. Community desire is for a 2-story fourplex, which is still meet the goals of all everything set up for infill with a smaller footprint, not requiring variances or setbacks. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I need you to help me understand the shading. So as we all know, living in the same city, in the summer, the sun east to west as it does in everywhere in the world, but it goes dramatically to the south. So where's the shading happening here? I'm not following you on that. Sun does not go up and over, it goes to the south and around.
But from the shadow cast from the building.
It doesn't though, because it doesn't go straight over, it goes around to the south, right?
And when you're looking at
So
only
help me
6.5
understand
feet,
that.
only 6.5 feet from the property, there would be a shadow on the side of the building. And then as it raises there, and then you're only talking about a period of a couple of months.
Okay.
Of the
So
summertime, it gets worse in the 10 months of the year.
Okay. So again, help me understand, where is the shadow impacting people's ability to grow food as you referenced? Give me an address and I'm gonna follow you along here and help me understand.
And give you an example of the actual address I don't have.
No,
But if you can look at
Mr. Ryback, I'd like to speak to this specific application. Where is the sun not going to hit the adjacent properties? I have to understand so that I can make a proper informed decision here.
It would be the property directly to the north. And I'm giving the case of the person that their location is the southwest corner of Sharp Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And they have side raised gardens on their property.
Mm-hmm.
And she said if this building of that size was 6.5 feet away from the fence, that she would not have the ability to grow her garden. That whole area would be in shade.
So again, if anything, Duffield, abutting Portage and the 2-story building, I can't remember what it is now, but used to be the Blockbuster, would that not be the concern for that resident with shade? And I don't believe that the shadow would cast there. I don't do shadow studies in my spare time.
I'm sorry, what location are you talking about?
The parking lot and the two-story building on Portage Avenue. It used to be a Blockbuster, I believe.
You got a back lane separating that.
You got a back lane separating Duffield and Chart.
No, if this would be the property. You're confusing things.
No, I'm not.
The person who made that comment to me on Sharp Boulevard was concerned. Person who made,
understand.
no, the person on Sharp Boulevard who made the comment that she could not grow her garden was based on if that same development was located beside her. I'm not saying that she would be impacted by this development.
Okay, so do you have an address that
Not
is gonna be?
it's not gonna
I know, but I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Ryback, who is impacted by shadow here?
It's a concern of what it would be and then be beyond June 21st.
So I'm gonna take that as the person that's being impacted by shadow here would be 204 Duffield, who is in support of this application. Is that correct?
Yes, and I said that her lifestyle is not typical, so that's not concerning to her.
Okay. And then just around parking, I appreciate the images that you provided. Obviously, parking is not going to get any better with additional residents, but could it get any worse?
With this unit, with their visitors, yes. And if any units have more than one vehicle, yes.
Okay. So would you be supportive of paid parking in this area?
Paid parking in this area?
The parking authority imposing paid parking.
That'd be a question for those residents.
Well, you're here as a community advocate. I just want to know your opinion on it.
That question did not come up on the doorstep or any emails or phone calls I received.
Okay. In your presentation, you stated that a building like this would reduce property values. Could you give me an example of a reduced property value where this type of building occurred?
That is based on what real estate agents have told me. As the same comment that I made regarding 199 Parkview, and it would definitely take longer to sell the neighboring properties.
Did their property value reduce in those areas? Do you have any information that you could provide this committee that would say that property value went down?
I don't have a specific example, but I'm citing the comments from licensed real estate agents.
Licensed real estate agents tell residents in South Point that the Brady landfill is moving, creating the impression that it's leaving, but it is moving, it's growing bigger. So I don't put a lot of weight in what real estate agents have to say. I'll just put that on the record.
So Mr. Chair, just my final question. I just want a clarification on that. So you don't have any information today that would say that the surrounding properties would reduce in value?
I'm saying that's what the neighbors of this area, that's their concern.
Okay.
They feel that if this goes up, it could affect right in the immediate area. And they say that their opinion is if this goes up next door to them, that's their concern.
Okay. And then, yeah, I do have to give you credit on the Woodlawn Street 203. I looked at it as a 3-story. It's definitely, 2.5 with the sunken suites there on the lower floor. So it's not the exact same project. However,
and the flat roof.
With a flat roof. However, it is interesting that it's, just short of twice as many units with 60.
Yes, and also note, again, it's a much further distance away from the property to the north. Secondly, that was built at the same time as the houses. People knew what they were getting into. This is not. Those houses are 1930s, 1940s, and this is 2025.
Yeah, I can't convert many dates with you here, but appreciate your presentation. Thanks for answering my questions.
Okay, I have one question, and it has to do with the shadowing. If I were to build 2 units there and put them 28 feet, 4 feet from the property line, we'd have virtually the same shadow.
Yeah, I would ask you not to do it 4 feet from the property line.
Oh, according to the rules, we're allowed to go that close, so.
The bylaw is 8 feet and then 2 feet added per additional story. For a single story building, the bylaw is 8 feet.
Typically,
And
what
then
we do right now.
and that's
for,
in the
house
report.
series Is for, is to do 28 feet. In mature communities, it's 28 feet, and you can put them 4 feet from the property line. You won't get this many units in there, but you'll still be the shadowing.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that from the report, it said that by the bylaw, it's 8 feet. And then you add 2 feet for each story, and that's why they're citing 12 feet and asking for a variance.
I'm saying 28 feet, totally different.
So on 199 Parkview, your decision as this committee and as introduced by you was a maximum height of 28 feet, and you increased the setback to the neighboring property. The request was 6 feet, and you made it 8 feet.
Absolutely.
So it's,
But we are talking about this one.
I know,
Each
but
and every one is different, and that's why we have hearings.
yes, and this one is different because it's on the opposite side.
Councillor Duncan, you go for it.
You make a good point. The neighboring property in past public hearings requested that. Is anybody requesting this that's a neighboring property right now?
That neighbor is not. I'm saying as an example and asking for consistency. And asking again to the same criteria on any future because these are neighbors' concerns.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. No more questions? We're good.
Okay, next to speak in opposition is Sarah Buchan. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hold on.
Is it okay if we can present together?
Sure, but then you would share your 10 minutes. Is that your intention?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so speaking with Sarah in opposition to the application is Connie Newman.
Gonna check the time before I start because I have good morning. Yeah, okay. Good morning. My name is Sarah Buchan. I'm the Executive Director of the St. James Assiniboia 55 Plus Center, located at 203 Duffield Street. I'm here today to speak on behalf of our community's older adults and express deep concern about the proposed building plans that would directly affect access to our center. I want to begin by acknowledging the challenging work you do as city councilors. You're tasked with making decisions that balance growth, development, and well-being of all residents. I am here today to respectfully ask that you give serious consideration to how this proposed development would affect one of our city's most vulnerable and most valuable populations, older adults. Currently, our 55 Plus Center operates with limited parking and drop-off space. This is already a significant barrier for many of our participants who rely on walkers, wheelchairs, family caregivers, or handy transit to attend programs and connect with their peers. This new building proposal would take away the few spaces we have, further limiting access and in many cases completely cutting off seniors from the community resource they depend on. We explored potential solutions. We reached out to Deer Lodge Center, our neighbor, to ask if they could accommodate us, but due to their own space limitations, they're unable to provide parking or drop-off support. That leaves us and those that use the center without viable alternatives. This may seem like a localized issue, but I want to emphasize the macro level impact this could have across our city. Health outcomes will worsen. Our senior center offers preventative programs that reduce hospital visits, delay long-term care placement, and support mental wellness. When seniors lose access to these services, public health costs rise. Social isolation will increase. Disconnection from community leads to higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even premature death. And that has ripple effects across our health and social support systems. The community loses out. In 2024, our center engaged 1,853 volunteers, contributing 5,692 volunteer hours, and most of those volunteers are older adults. We provided 885 programs, which had 26,639 program participants. Moreover, we connected with 51,499 individuals providing various resources. St. James 55 Plus Center contributes in vital ways to our aging population. Limiting the access to the center will have a severe impact on this community. Legal and ethical responsibilities come into play. Under the Accessibility for Manitobans Act, we are responsible for ensuring that spaces are inclusive and accessible. This proposal, as it stands, contradicts those obligations. There are economic and reputation concerns or consequences. An inaccessible senior center reduces foot traffic to nearby businesses, fractures trust in local planning processes, and undermines the city's reputation as an age-friendly community. As councillors, I know you care about creating a livable, inclusive city. You understand the importance of equity in public infrastructure and community development. That is why I am urging you today, please reconsider or revise the development plan so that it protects access to our center and affirms the city's commitment to its older citizens. This is not about opposing the development. It is about ensuring development does not come at the cost of the people who helped build the city in the first place. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of points while I'm listening. The parking, yes, it is limited. It's 1 hour and 2 hour. We actually have a standing arrangement with the city currently that allows our participants to have a city pass virtually that doubles our time. Because our programs run from 8:30 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon from Monday to Friday. So we already have people who come in and are there majority of the day, and they have a 4-hour path and have to move to another spot. And that also creates conflict because we have people that all because they can drive themselves, even if they're not being dropped off, they require things like wheelchairs, walkers, canes. They don't have the ability to make the walk from point A to point B from a far distance. And you add winter into the mix, and that is much, much worse. Deer Lodge itself even accommodates us to the level that they ask their staff and they ask people that are visiting not to park along Duffield or Sharp or even that front section on Portage where we have the permeability to allow us to have these programs. But it doesn't just affect us. It's a 3-story building. We're the 3rd floor. The other 2 floors, they may not be here, but I see the importance and the relevance of what they're doing. The 2nd floor is a getaway club, and it's a program where you can take someone if you need some respite. It's like a day program. And the other side of that floor is pulmonary. On the main floor is Prime, which is one of our day programs. And you'll see Handy Transit and different Blue Line services in and out of the Handy Transit drop-off from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I just clarity on how busy the street can be. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Also, we keep referring to the building 203 Duffield as Deer Lodge Center, when in fact it's an accessible building to Deer Lodge. Deer Lodge is actually 2109 Portage Avenue. We are 203 Duffield Street. We are actually the South Pavilion, so it is not the same size, and we are not affiliated to the hospital.
Is Connie gonna speak?
Now?
Yes.
Okay, I've made these notes on a piece of paper so you'll all remember them. I'm gonna remind you of the number of older adults, you 3 counselors, because I sat at a meeting and we talked about Assiniboia has got one of the largest dense population of older adults. Page 4 on that diagram.
Can I hand these out? Is that all right?
Sure.
Are you have copies for?
The 3 counselors.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. The diagrams that have been shared by the developer do not show the big buildings at 203 Duffield and the activities there. And it bothers me looking at the report, especially item 1. The Deer Lodge Center runs, as you heard from Sarah, the 55 plus. They run a Prime program, and they also, we need to understand Deer Lodge is home to many, many residents living in that building. The density in that building is huge. Page 9 of item 1, there's consultations. It was deemed not available. Well, I heard this morning there's several consultations. And I need to point out that we, this center, which is why I'm here today, were not approached for a consultation. And I'm not sure why not. Page 16. What were the results of this project? Several policy statements were referenced, to you as counselors making these decisions, what were the results? And on page 21 of item 1, 4 out of 13 supported this proposal. Well, now we've heard today there's more, they're not supporting it. And the other thing I want to bring up, page 18 of item 2, internal consultations, there's a not available. Well, who are we talking to, or why are they not available? My last comments. This area is home to many older adults, seniors, and elders. Has anyone checked the population density? Has anyone checked parking density during the day? I don't go to the center at 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon because you can't get down Duffield. Has anyone checked transportation density Monday to Friday before 10 and at 3? That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, Councillor Lewis?
So that's great. Excellent presentation. Who owns that building? Like, if it's not part of Deer Lodge, whose building is it?
It belongs to Deer Lodge, we rent.
You rent it. And the folks on the other 2 levels are who?
I don't know.
Okay,
I just know the programs because we're all in the same building.
right. And the programs run from morning to?
Yeah,
afternoon?
for all of them, you could blanket it at 8:30 to 4. That's the basis of the building during the day.
Right,
All 3 levels.
Yeah.
okay. And then the parking passes are good for Portage Avenue and Duffield, is that what you're saying?
Yes, the parking passes work so the very front of our building on Portage Avenue. And then it also gets you along Duffield between Portage and Lodge. And then the same thing on Sharp 1 straight over.
So Councilor Duncan pointed this out, and I agree. When I look at the modifications that have been made for parking load and unload along Duffield, it looks like there could be even a lot more parking modifications made so that older adults can be just right up to the door, drop off, right? Or parking, whatever. So Deer Lodge, I guess that's a provincial facility. Does the province own Deer Lodge? Can't be private, so.
It's probably Winnipeg Regional Health.
It is.
When we first started this, I was involved. There was that extension to allow for drop off.
Right.
This goes back 10 years now.
Right. Okay.
And the idea of extending that extension or
Right,
supposed to be in the works somewhere.
10 years ago.
I
Okay,
don't know.
so I would gladly, as I'm sure the area councillor and Councillor Duncan would gladly advocate to get more, to ramp up that extension, like to ramp up more.
If you're there at 3 o'clock, 2:30, you need extension for 5 handymans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's only space for maybe two or three.
There's, yeah.
If they're good.
And that, you said that happened kind of about 10 years ago, or the extension? Yeah,
Some people tell me I've been on this road with this for 15.
yeah.
It to put a very large, dense apartment across the street.
And the biggest concern there too is that because it's 1 stall per suite,
Mhm.
you know that there's going to be need for more parking, and that's going
We don't
to,
know that.
well, I would assume that if I live in an apartment, I'm going to have a friend come over and visit, and they're going to need to park somewhere, and they could
Yeah.
potentially park on the front street, which is already limited for so many people.
I reached out actually to find out what the parking ratio uptake was for the new apartment block on Portage Avenue. I don't know what it's called, whatever it's called. The parking uptake is 0.8. So that tells me lots of people are doing transit, right? That they're taking the bus. So, anyways, that's interesting.
To me, it's the density of people.
9 people.
Oh, at the block,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, no, it's 9 dwellings.
9 dwellings, 9
Yeah.
dwellings.
but in that whole movement area.
It's
the
a busy
number-
area, no doubt.
It is.
No doubt, no doubt. I know a business down the street that seems to get parking. I don't know where they all park. They line up for a block.
They walk.
And I don't know where they park, right? Like, that's interesting. So, yeah, I think regardless of what happens here, that Deer Lodge should really look at expanding that loading and unloading zone.
Well, that's,
There's a lot of space there, right? So, and
you put a 9-unit apartment across the street, that's additional.
well, will be additional. Yeah, it'll be additional people.
Yep.
Okay.
With parking, but you are correct in that there's not enough room for your handy transit, so that's something that should be looked at,
Over and above.
going towards the north. Because you can't go really south because that lines up with the back line.
True. I'm just,
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Go ahead, Councilor Duncan.
Question, Sarah, just can you clarify again which organization you're with?
St. James Assiniboia 55+.
Okay, and is that the same organization that will be running programs in the future out of the St. James Civic Center?
Well, I mean, potentially.
Does we let it
I'm only asking,
Not that.
I'm just asking if that would move some of the programs from this location to the.
As it stands right now, no. This is an immediate issue, and the Civic Center is so far off that if we don't handle this issue now, there might not be anything to go to the Civic Center if we don't have people coming to our program.
So what's the approximate civic center ETA of opening? Don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
why don't you ask community services?
Sure.
I
You
would,
think it's 2 years?
No.
or ask planning, property and development, because we hear from them, but we don't hear from community services.
Okay. Going down that rabbit hole. Okay.
Yeah, stay out of there.
But hey, listen, if it was all open, if it was open,
If what?
if the civic center was open, is the plan, the long term, however long it is, to move the people, yourself?
That's what Connie Newman raised money for.
Right.
But I think that is not something that we can answer right now because there's way more variables than whether or not it's built.
Okay.
I was more so asking if this was gonna be a shift of where you folks were gonna operate out of.
Right.
I would assume that the program would grow and you'd probably need both locations. That's what I would assume is going to happen. But anyway, just wanting to know. And just around the statement of very large and dense, I mean, I find that hard to agree with. We're talking about 9 units.
I'm talking about the residents that live at Deer Lodge.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, and then just around, it's a shame that the applicant didn't have an opportunity, didn't pursue further consulting. Now we're talking in hypotheticals, but what would have happened in that community consult that could have brought you folks on board to support this?
I would say most likely just hearing our considerations and concerns for the parking and maybe working together to see how we could make both work, what that would look like. Right now, in my mind, I run the risk of losing what little parking I have due to whether it's a 9 dwelling or not, people have more than one vehicle, people have social lives, people come over, people visit. That's inevitable. Whether I have accurate numbers or not, that is inevitable.
And then I posed the question just around paid parking. Working on the budget working group and just knowing the dire times we have for income opportunities, would there be support from the center to have paid parking opportunities?
No, we work extremely hard to keep things affordable, and if they're not affordable to someone, we try to make them free. So to ask them to park to come to our programs is not something that I can.
What are they paying for their pass that allows them to extend their time?
In front of the center, $5 for the entire year.
$5.
So you subsidize that then?
No, we have an agreement with the city. The only thing we charge is for the admin fee. It's because they saw at the time, because this has been going on for a long time that we've had this arrangement. And it was because they saw the need to be able to park to get to our programs because it's so limited.
I hear where you're coming from. It just sounds like regardless of 9 units or not, it's not like a good situation for parking and accessibility.
Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid it getting worse.
No more questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, next to speak in opposition to the application is Mike Ruda, who's joining us over the phone via Zoom. So Mike, we're just asking you to unmute your telephone now and you can proceed with your 10-minute presentation.
Mike Ruda, the retired.
Hi, Mike, we've just asked you to unmute your audio so that we can proceed with your telephone presentation. Mike, can you hear us? We're asking you to unmute yourself via the telephone and start your presentation.
Mr. Chair, could we go back to other delegations this time?
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure that Mike can.
Do you want to go back to in support, the one?
Leave it to.
Can we,
If the
if the council is in favor, can we go back to, we missed one person that it was in support. Can we go that way? Or-
if the committee wishes to hear, I know that the one of the applicants is now present in the room. So I don't know if you're looking to speak in support of the application. You weren't here when the folks spoke in support. Yeah. Yeah, we had finished support. So are you looking to speak in support or no?
Okay, so we'll pause the other one.
It might just be a good idea to wrap up opposition.
Okay,
just to-
okay, we're gonna wrap up the opposite.
Okay, so just confirming that there's no one else in the gallery looking to speak in opposition to this application.
Do have one more.
Okay, so we'll just need you to register to speak, sir.
Sure. I'll break it down.
There's forms at the table there. We'll get you one. Go ahead. I'll get you a form.
Sure. I thought we were done. Yeah, one on parking in front. All the streets surrounding are 2-hour parking. Right. And seen people do street that work there, park. Outside the 2-hour limit. So it was like 3 streets over. Parking is a big issue for that place.
Okay, so this is Murray Dufton speaking in opposition to the application.
Thank you for making a few minutes for me. I apologize for not previously registering. I know that throws a wrench into you. I'm speaking as a long-term resident in that residential area. I've lived there for 45 years. I've lived in that immediate area for about 75 years. So I'm familiar with everything that goes on there. I'm also for transparency, I'm also a board member on the St. James Assiniboine 55 Plus Center. I'm active on that board. I just have a couple of comments relating to, just to throw out some information to you relating to my experiences in that area that might have an impact on this project. Traffic on Duffield. We've heard a lot about that. You cannot, from 8 o'clock till after 10 o'clock, you can't even get through to Portage Avenue on that street. There's handicap buses parked in the offloading for them. There's cars on the other side, and there's usually 2 or 3 other handicap buses trying to negotiate off the Portage Avenue into those offloading things. It's impassable. And the same in the afternoon. You cannot use that street. That's existing. Parking allotments. You're saying 1 car per unit. The curse of living in that area is the fact that everything you want to access in your day-to-day has moved out of that whole area. it's a dead zone. All the banks have pretty much moved out. All the insurance companies have moved down to Moray and everything. All the food stores are blocks away. You cannot survive in that area without a car. And anybody living in that whole area has at least 2 cars in their family. And I don't care what the makeup of your family is, whether it's a teenager and parents or whatever, 1 car is a ridiculous assumption for living in that area. Because if you want even a stick of gum, you got to get in your car and drive to some place to get it. It's too far away. So I just wanted to comment on that. The last item is sewer issues. The sewers have gone in there. Almost all those houses in that area, except the 3-story old houses, were built in 1950. The sewers went in 1950 in that whole area. They're 75 years old, the sewers, because there's been very little sewer renewal in that area since it was developed. Speaking on Guildford Street and all the surrounding streets in that area, there's constant sewer repairs going on where they're digging out a chunk of road to renew sewer failures there. That is going to be a fact of life, sewer failure renewal, and to burden it with more capacity is going to be problematic because they're already failing with the existing houses there. So that's all I wanted to say. Just throw that information out to you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
And it's just, to reiterate, it's just a nightmare living there with having to get in your car and drive someplace and come back. You can't run a family in that area with 1 car.
How do all the people in these other apartment blocks do it all on Portage Avenue? There's many apartment blocks.
Yes, there are. And
parking, period.
It's exacerbated by the fact that there's 800 staff members at Deer Lodge Center, not counting volunteers. There's 800, and they require, so slice it however you want, there's 200 per shift. They park on all the residential streets from Ness all the way down.
They do.
We had to change our parking area to 1 hour just to survive on our street. And there's all the 1 hour parking set. We can't live on that street with 2 hour parking because they used to come out in the morning on coffee break, move their car. Come out at noon, move their car. Come out at afternoon coffee break, move their car. And it's just impossible. And they're also where they tore United Church down on Belvedere. Portage. They're in the winter, they're parking all over that vacant lot that they're trying to sell. Every nook and cranny is taken up with staff parking from the hospital, all the way down to Ness Avenue. And all the way from about on one street west of Conway, all the way to past Belvedere. It's saturated.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't realize they walked all the way from Ness, but I am quite aware that they've walked 3 or 4 streets over.
From Ness,
there was no parking.
From Ness to Lodge on Guildford Street, you cannot spot any hour during the day. You cannot spot a single parking space available. I don't know how people live on those 2 blocks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
I'm sorry to be so abrupt and pointed.
Well, get to the point here. That's what we have to do.
That's good.
Thanks a lot for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so just confirming that there's no one else in the gallery looking to speak in opposition to this application.
Now, can we go back to?
Sure. So there were only 2 folks registered to speak in support. Tajinder Singh was not here when folks speaking in support concluded. So if the committee wishes to hear from him now, can certainly.
All those in favor?
Do so.
Aye. Motion's carried.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Tajinder. I am one of the owners of this property. Back in June, when we purchased this property, we had an intention to create a multifamily. We did our consultation with a private municipal engineer and along with Water and Waste. That is when they told us that you can put up to 10 units over here. Then we had a word with ward councillor. I had personally 2 meetings with him. At that point in time, our plan was much bigger. Our suite sizes were bigger. And finally, after we formally submitted our application, after we got the support from planning staff, a hiccup came when Public Works told us that you need to give us lane widening and corner cut. The house, which is right across the back on Sharp, has a brand new garage built up to that side lane. So the chances are that lane would not be widened, but still, we did not wanted any opposition from public works and planning. We did accommodate that lane widening and that corner cut. Initially, we had 10 parking stalls because we are 84 feet in the back. So we could have accommodated 2 10-feet wide stalls and 8 8-feet wide stalls for a total of 10 stalls. Because of that corner cut and lane widening, our 10th stall was stalled. We never had intentions to build up to 10 units because our design was such. We did not want it to go above and beyond 3 stories. I heard one of the gentlemen opposing that they are having a side yard, which is not as per the bylaw. As a matter of fact, our side yard on main floor towards the north side is 6.5 feet. The requirement as per the guidelines is 6 feet. Then on second and third floor, we went above and beyond by pushing it back to 9 feet. So we are not having a straight wall. It's a cost to us in terms of construction as well, but we did all just to accommodate everything, and we made sure that it aligns at least with the policy, because we are spending significant amount of money on rezoning. There was 20,000 we have put just in application fees. So we did wanted to make sure we have planners, water and waste, public works, and of course, ward councillor in some form of agreement where we are not disturbing anybody. And those 2 ladies are not here anymore. They were from the senior center. In fact, I did went to the senior center with my original plans, which were bigger. And at that point in time, they liked them and they rented 4 stalls from us up and until we started construction. And I do have the proof of e-transfer of $265, which they put every month into our bank account. And finally, one gentleman said that 199 Parkview is a similar site. No, it's not a similar site. 199 Parkview is 5,500 square feet in lot size. We are 7,999. It's a difference of like 2,000, more than 2,000 square feet. That building was passed for 6 units. They never consulted planning. They just applied for it with 8 units. And then at some form of negotiations, they said, okay, we are fine with 6. They met the criteria of 6 units as per the zoning bylaw. They were just throwing it above and beyond the requirement so they can get 6 because they knew they were playing tricks. We are not here to play tricks. I shooted straight and told this is my intention. And even with the reduced square footage from 7,999 square feet to 7,500 square feet, with the zoning bylaw stating 800 square feet of lot size, lot area per unit, we are still above and beyond the requirement. So we are at 9.5. We are only asking for 9. We are not asking for 10. So that is our goal over here. We meet the height criteria. We are preserving the existing tree. In fact, we would have preserved the other 2 trees as well if that lane widening would not have come into account. But certainly, if you tell us we can plant more trees, we went to the neighbor to the north. She was very accommodating. She said, okay, I like the project. No worries from my side. If you need any other help, let me know. But the only thing is, make sure the place is well kept. That was her one agenda. If you have any questions, you can ask me more.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Sure. Perfect. Thanks, Tejinder. What are you planning to do for snow removal?
snow removal, we will have a property management in place. Once the building is fully finished. So because we are having a private refuse collection, we are going to have a property management company where we'll be hiring for the front lawn care and landscaping. There will be a contractor. The same contractor will be removing the snow from the property.
And you've heard the concerns of the public, the neighbors about parking, right? And you're providing 8 stalls.
9 stalls.
9 stalls. So, you know, I just reflect in my ward, I have apartment blocks that don't use all the parking, like we've put in more parking than we need. But who do you think your tenants will be, or what are you anticipating?
Because our suite layout on 2nd and 3rd floor, we are having 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, which are 649. We carefully designed the building so that we qualify for the CMHC project, because I'm going to get CMHC financing. This design has been prepared as per the guidelines of the CMHC, where they need 2 units to be affordable. Okay, so in fact, those suites will not even they won't even have cars. They'll have bikes. So because those are going to be our affordable units, they'll be below market rents, probably below $1,100.
Right.
So I don't think so. Parking will be a concern for those 2 suites, which are going to be on the 2nd and 3rd floor, which are 1 bed, 1 bath.
So you're putting in affordable units, you're doing CMHC to do that, you've designed it such, okay?
And if you can remove that public lane widening, I can have my 10th stall over there. Perfect.
Garbage truck will take the corner out.
Okay.
Sir, there is a corner cut already on that side.
Yeah.
If you go and look at the back lane, there are 2 poles over there.
Yeah.
The corner cut is already there. They are going to just officialize it once they approve the plans.
So you've got a very well thought out, detailed with balconies apartment. Have you done other developments in the city?
Per se, I have been involved in other projects. This project is of a bigger scale. I am in talks with Paragon, who built the building on the other side, and 3-way builders. Because then my program will be, because that is CMHC needs a specific type of builder for us to qualify for a project, because they need a minimum type of insurance and number of projects, which I have not done. So I am in talks with these 2 builders, whosoever's numbers work for us. We're going to hire them and they'll be building it for me.
Okay. So you're thinking with affordable units, 2 affordable units. Who else, like, have you had any calls on people wanting to rent yet?
We haven't scouted for that thing yet, but when I went to the senior center, because our building doesn't have basement, it's on a slab. So some of the seniors, they can even move into the units which are on main floor, which are accessible, which don't have stairs. Even if somebody walks with a stick or something, they can probably get into those suites. We don't have the wheelchair suites because the bathrooms needs to be accessible because of the space constraints. So the wheelchair can go into the living room, but not into the bathroom.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
One question, Councilor Duncan here.
Yeah, you had mentioned if you were to get back the cut, Public Works, what would you'd give another parking stall?
10. Because they require 2 10-feet wide stalls. As per the planning department, you need to have 2 10-feet wide stalls and 8 8-feet wide stalls. We are 84 feet and 9 inches in back length of the property. So we have room for the 10th stall.
So the Public Works told you that they want to widen the lane?
Yes, lane widen, and we told them that the house which is behind us has a brand new garage right up to that side lane. So in technicality, you won't be able to widen that lane for at least the next 25 years. Why do you want to take a piece of our land, which is compromising our design? But ultimately, it was a condition from planning and public works, which was non-negotiable. So we had to just shrunk our building design, but we're still happy with it.
So if I made an amendment to give you back that corner, we could put it in that it would require 10 stalls on the lot?
Yeah, I can put another.
And then height wise, how much height do you need?
Height
Your building, yeah.
Height wise, as per the infill guidelines, the requirement is 35. We are at 34 feet 9 inches. And even with the new bylaws of these fourplexes up to 4-story highs that are coming, you can go as high as 45 feet, which is not our intention. Our intention is stick to the current design because it's economical. We don't want to build too much large of a building and ultimately which increases our construction cost because as you know, in this environment, materials and everything has gone up. So this is the most compact design we could have done.
So you're in favor of the 40-foot cap, but you don't need 40 feet, you need.
No, not at all. Because if I'm putting another floor, I would rather put an elevator. In order to put an elevator, my cost bumps up by $80,000.
Building code, right? I hear you. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Now, if it's the will of this committee, we can take a break.
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead, Paulette.
Just confirming, so no one has registered for information with respect to the application, but just confirming no one in the gallery wishes to speak with respect to this application.
Now, I would like to take a break. How long?
For how long and what is this, like, this is like a half hour break or 5-minute break? Okay, 10-minute break?
10-minute break.
10-minute break.
Great.
Okay, so reconvene in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Let's do it.
Sure.
Okay, we're back. Assiniboine Community Committee, subdivision and rezoning 202 Duffield Street. And where are we now?
So now the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted. Or sorry, if there are questions for the public service prior to the rebuttal.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ask them about the room.
3x3 cut up.
Sorry. I guess I'm interested in the lane widening fact that we approved, unless it wasn't permitted work, the garage right across the way. I mean, what I'm hearing today is that parking is a major issue. So if we can add parking, what would be the opposition there? I know, again, it's a public works decision and they're unfortunately not here. Very busy doing public works things.
So for the lane widening, the lane to the south of the property is currently around 16 feet in width. And the public work is requesting lane widening to bring it closer to standards. The lane to the west of the property is around 20 feet. So this is a comparison.
Okay, hold on. So south is the commercial lot on Portage Avenue. You're saying that that is wider?
The lane to the south is currently 16 feet.
Yep.
To the west is 20 feet. The west is wider and the south is going to be, the lane to the south is going to be widening, taking around 1 meter from the property
Taking 1 meter from the southern property.
line, yeah.
Okay, so there's hydro that we gotta work with and then we gotta expropriate their property on the south.
How did you do that building?
And chop the edge off that building while we're at it. The building at the south, again, I refer to it as the, oh, it looks like it's a meta now. So-
I'm referring to the property, the field, south of the field street,
South of Duffield, yeah, I'm following you.
sorry. South of our property under discussion 202, the lane is 16 feet wide. And
Yes.
we, Public Works want lane widening from 202.
They want to take the property from on the north side of the lane,
Yeah, they are
not the
taking
south
from
side. They want to
202.
take it from the north side. That's why they made them redesign it. Even though they just approved this building right here.
Yeah, I don't, I'm still not
They
following.
want to take the meter here.
Right, so then it's gonna run right into this garage that we have?
Oh, you are talking, I'm talking about 202, the field. You're talking about the property on Sharp.
I mean, they're all on the back lane, so I'm
So
trying.
this is because it's not under rezoning. Public Works has no process.
I totally get it, but how are we gonna ever build a lane there if there's a garage sitting right there? And then not only that, there's a commercial building on Portage Avenue that also is within,
corner.
like, within feet, yeah, of the lane. I'm just looking in reality, like in reality, does this make sense?
It's a long game.
I get it, yeah, just like
Yeah.
the,
Okay, so if it's a long game, can we make some sort of amendment here? Can we make some sort of amendment? They proceed with their building with the design that they've made, but we make some sort of amendment that until that lane is
Until such
widened,
time.
until such time that they can add one more parking spot.
I don't, if this proceeds and this lane is widened and the corner cut happens, then they would need to apply for and enter into an encroachment agreement with the city, with Public Works, because they would be parking a car on a lane.
So the city's taken the lane, the city's taken the land right now. So then they would have to enter into an encroachment agreement to put in, if they chose to, they don't
Right.
have to.
Yeah.
But if they chose to, then they would pay an encroachment fee in perpetuity if they wanted to use that city land, which, right,
And yeah, and then the city could just, now the full lane is being built years down the road.
and then they would
You-
lose
you've
that one
locked your
parking
parking
spot.
spots.
Okay, so that's cool. So, I'm gonna use an example, Balkan and Sons on Pembina Highway, have 8 parking spots that along Pembina Highway, there's many, kind of, I think in St. James too, where they can park, back in, angled parking. Angled parking. So for a bizarre set of reasons, the city is allowing Balkan and Sons to use 10 parking spots at no charge, not paying an encroachment, nothing.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, can we, and this is to the clerk, if we wanted to write up a motion that, if the developer so chooses to want to use an extra parking spot, that they not pay an encroachment fee and that they can have access to that spot until the back lane is expanded.
Yeah, I have no idea how that would
Okay,
be.
so I'm asking the clerk then.
Sorry, so you're looking to allow them to have an extra parking spot outside of the planned area?
No.
Okay,
the public service or Public Works is requesting that the southwest corner of the site in question be, what is the word,
it's section 2 of the ACG, right?
Yeah.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, whatever the wording is there.
Yes, it's
Legally open.
Yeah, legally open the property required for okay. So the committee's intent is to delete that section of the ACG, correct?
I'm exploring, yeah.
Okay, or sorry, thinking about
Mhm.
removing that condition, or sorry, condition of the ACG report to allow for parking in that spot.
Mhm.
And then Councillor Luke's, your question was allowing.
Waiving the encroachment fee.
There wouldn't be one.
There wouldn't be one?
There wouldn't be one if we deleted the clause.
Oh, if you delete the clause completely. Yeah, I don't know if we want to delete the clause completely. So.
Just- As part of the discussion, we've looking over the plans. If there wouldn't be dimensionally a new parking space added. Without this lane widening, that doesn't give you enough space for 10 parking spaces as the rest of the site is designed.
What are the dimensions of the piece that's being taken?
It's
Exhibit
1 meter at the narrowest, so park a motorcycle.
Okay. Moving on then.
Okay, so what are we doing here now? So now we've got no more presentations, nothing, any questions of the public service is what we're doing.
Come back.
And then we make a motion.
The applicant isn't able to speak in rebuttal.
The applicant can speak in rebuttal. Okay, so any questions of the public service? No, I don't have any public service.
Do they want to? I'm done with those two things.
I don't have any of the public
Just for
service.
this one.
Yeah, I'm done with public service.
Okay. Okay.
Swallow yours.
Okay.
Hurt my feelings here.
All right. All right.
Came out wrong.
So Chris Thorne is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made, but no new information is permitted.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, first thing I'll just speak to is it sounds like a common theme from neighbors was lack of parking, and it sounds like that is sort of a pre-existing condition, we'll say, and it sounds like something that will kind of be discussed with Deer Lodge. I guess just having to do with our application, we're meeting the parking requirements. Perhaps if we were asking for parking variances, that's something that needs to be discussed a little more carefully. But given that we're not asking for parking variances, I think we should be okay in that regard. Also wanted to note that Ginger had brought it up as well, but we are providing additional housing units where there was only one housing unit before. That gives seniors and others who are downsizing in the community the opportunity to stay in the community as opposed to having to move out to different areas. I guess some other points to do with parking. So I visited there on I guess 3 occasions. It was kind of starting at 5 o'clock and onwards. I didn't know, I never had issues parking on the streets. It seemed like there was quite a few spaces available. Obviously, I'm not there as much as the neighbors, but it sounds like the parking issue was a daytime issue. And I would guess that anybody visiting the apartment building, I would probably be visiting in the evening. So I can't see this being as big of an issue as maybe we're thinking. What else? Oh yeah, there's just a comment on how it impacts property values. When I was doing my consultation, there was actually a neighbor that just requested some information on that. So I had emailed him a copy of a Harvard study on that topic that essentially demonstrated that there was no impact with new developments reducing property values. And it was actually the neighbor directly across the back lane on Sharp Boulevard. And I had good conversations with him, and there was follow-up, and he didn't seem to be opposed to the project. So, yeah, those are essentially my my comments.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
No questions.
And no questions as well. Thank you.
So now where are we at? Are we at the motion part?
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay.
On this.
Do you want to take the chair? Or do you want me to take the chair, Councillor Dobson, or do you want one of us to make the motion?
You can make the motion, that's fine.
Okay.
I can do it.
You want to do it?
Yep,
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Up here. All right, I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded, Madam Clerk, to Cisco EPC route or to the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development.
No amendments?
No amendments at this time. All of yes, my supporting reasons include that the adjacent or the abutting property will go as far as saying 204 Duffield is supportive. It meets all parking requirements. It meets our Winnipeg Complete Communities 2.0. It also, the applicant undertook community consultation and that the plan was modified from a larger scale to what it is presented to this committee, and that there is an intent to have 2 affordable units within the proposed development.
Can I add something to that too?
Go for it.
Okay, so I too will be supporting Councillor Duncan's motion. I've seen a lot of development over my time here in the city, and I have to say, the design of the building is beautiful. You've been respectful of the neighbors, you've been respectful of the windows, the window placement, and you've been very respectable and incredibly creative in putting in the balconies. Balconies, I don't often see balconies put into a smaller unit like this. So I think this is a very, very well designed infill project. I'm very supportive of it. I know, like I said, I just spoke across the street with the uptake of parking. I know from many developments that I've put in, if people have 2 cars and there isn't parking, they'll go rent somewhere else. So I'm very appreciative that you're putting in affordable housing. And I really do believe across from the Deer Lodge Hospital that you probably will get people that either work or go to activities there. We know the demographics in the neighborhood are downsizing. A great percentage are downsizing. And this building, I think, is a perfect fit. I will make a commitment to work with Connie Newman and to work with the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority to talk more about curb cuts or landing zones or whatever they're called, to work with the area councillor on that for the Deer Lodge facility. But I think this is just a stellar project, so I'm very supportive of it.
And I'd like to make a couple of comments as well. For one, this particular project is close to transit. The balconies and the windows are very respectfully done. And on the north side, the fact that the project was pushed in 3 feet on the second and third floors shows that he has respect and he's trying to accommodate the neighborhood.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I just lost my spot here. And I'll move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Please note the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move item number 2, the variance of 202 Duffield Street.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
I'll move that in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, that the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties in the adjacent area, including the area separated from the property by street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve any injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property is to be affected is situated. I'll use my supporting reasons from the previous item and just emphasize, typically when I move these, I look at the adjacent properties. I did hear from our delegations in regards to some shading concerns. I do not see that impacting any of the properties, with the exception of the adjacent property on Duffield, which they are in support of the project. So with that and my other reasons from item number 1, I will move.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Chair, I'll move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll move that the public hearings with respect to this application be concluded at this time.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered. To continue on?
Yes, please.
Yes, we've only got one left.
Okay, Item 3 is a variance at 696 Sterling Lion Parkway under file DAV 117341 of 2025D. Please note communications were received in support of the matter, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. The process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application, those registered in opposition, and those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. If the committee would like a brief overview from the public service.
Very brief, please.
Sure. So this is in the south of Sterling Lion in the Tuxedo Industrial neighborhood of the Charleswood Tuxedo Westwood ward. The subject site is currently zoned C4 Commercial Regional, and this is within the Regional Mixed Use Center policy area under Complete Communities 2.0. The applicant's proposing to create a new parcel of land on the property to be known as Parcel A. This would be located at the southeast portion of the large site. This portion is currently vacant. So Parcel A is proposed to be approximately 1.5 acres in size. And the applicant proposes to construct a one-story building on this parcel. The building, according to plans shown, is to be approximately 11,500 square feet in floor area. Vehicular access is taken from 2 different approaches from private streets, one on the north side of the site and one on the south side of the site. No new approaches from Sterling Lion Parkway are proposed as part of this application, so all access comes through the private streets in the Seasons of Tuxedo development. The proposed development requires a variance to allow establishing a commercial parcel of land that has no frontage on a public street. The public service supports this variance because access to the street, as mentioned, is enabled through a cross-access agreement over private drive aisles and private streets. There's a variance for insufficient landscaping and buffering on the west side of the parcel, which is adjacent to a future residential use. The public service supports this variance because the adjacent residential building, which was recently approved through plan approval, but I don't believe construction has begun, is the building itself is approved to be almost 300 feet away from this property line. Additionally, there is fencing proposed for some of this area, so therefore the effect of this lack of buffering is not significant. Should be noted finally that design plans, including elevation drawings, have not been submitted with this application. However, all final plans are required to come to this committee for plan approval before construction. And at that point, we can look at greater design details. Both the administration and this committee can look at those, including details on the building elevation, pedestrian access, landscaping, and so forth. Happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll save my questions about what exactly it is that is being proposed to be built here for the folks that are eagerly awaiting to speak, but more so from P&D's side of things, like concrete jungle is what this area has turned into. Is there anything at all that we looked at to make it not so concrete-esque?
Yeah, they are meeting their parking requirements for the use that's proposed. They're also meeting the landscaping requirements at this point, based on the review of their site and landscaping plans. So
not a tree in sight.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have a look here.
Okay, like we'll hear, I mean, I'm not opposed at this point in time to the idea. Yeah, it's a lot of concrete surface for ever.
Yeah, they're landscaping plans. These are, preliminary and not fully fleshed out, I would say, but they do show a number of trees proposed within that
Much
parking area.
more than required.
Right.
So no,
Yeah, we have the zoning bylaw and the landscaping requirements there as a tool.
yeah,
Um,
okay, great.
And is there any like sidewalk in here or?
they're not showing that in these plans. Maybe the applicant can speak to that, but that's something that I have flagged as something to review at plan approval, because there is a crossing built adjacent to the site at the south side, kind of right at the corner of that roundabout. There's a pedestrian crossing at the west side of that roundabout.
On the other side.
And they have sidewalks through the parking lots of the existing, can't remember what they're called there, but the theater company that owns the game room there.
That's right.
Okay. Wow. Thank you.
All right, what's next? Yes, the applicant, please.
Okay, so first up is the applicant, Megan Bowles, speaking in support of the application.
I wasn't able to get the presentation on a USB, but I believe you guys have access to it. So I'll just refer to that. So good morning, I'm Megan Bowles with WSP, 1600 Buffalo Place. I'm a registered professional planner and the applicant representing North American Development Group for this variance application. On to slide 2 for my presentation. We're here today to request approval for variances as part of the Seasons of Tuxedo South development along the south side of Sterling Lyon Parkway and west of IKEA. Just to orient you to the site here, it's west of IKEA as well as the new Structube, north of Bass Pro Shops, south of the Rec Room, and shown on the map on page 2 of my presentation as SKA, S-K-A. So on page 3 of my presentation, parcel C is being subdivided to create a new approximately 1.55 acre lot. Shown in green there is proposed parcel A to permit the development of an urban thermal spa, which is defined as a personal service commercial use in the city's zoning bylaw. The subdivision related to this was approved administratively a few weeks ago, and one of the conditions is obtaining these variances. The proposed lot will be accessed by an existing private road network that is part of the overall development, and the properties here are currently zoned C4 commercial. Parcel B, the L-shaped lot there, is under development for multi-unit residential and is zoned RMU residential mixed use. On to slide 4, this is the concept plan for the spa site. It includes a 1-story, approximately 11,500 square foot building. We have 44 parking spaces, including accessible spaces and bike parkings, and it also illustrates how landscaping requirements could be met. The site details and landscaping shown here are conceptual at this stage. The site is being subdivided to sell to the end user, and they will be required to come before you again for plan approval when they have more of these details sorted out. I will point out one feature on the plan here is it triggered one of the variance requirements. A 6-foot solid wood fence is proposed on the west property line of the commercial use to provide a buffer from the residential use to the west. So slide 5 with respect to the variances. So as I mentioned, a condition of the subdivision approval is to obtain the 2 variances we are here for today. The first is to permit the creation of a lot with no direct access to a public street. This type of variance has been approved elsewhere on this site and throughout other similar developments in the city due to the nature of access being provided through a private road, internal road network and not a public street. No additional roads are required to provide access here. They've all been built out and access is facilitated through an existing cross-access agreement, which is registered by Caveat on all titles. The second variance is needed to permit the construction of a commercial building with insufficient landscaping and buffering along the west side, where the subject lands are abutting that residential zoning district. So this is a requirement in the zoning bylaw, and even though we have shown an existing fence on the western property line, which meets the intent of that requirement, the fence is discontinued where that access to the site comes out from the parking lot to the road. And so that is why the variance is required. The spa building would be at least 85 meters away from the residential building under development, and so no negative impacts are anticipated. So the requirement is from the residential zone district, but in this case, the building where any potential impacts might be is substantially further away. We agree with Mr. Galston's report that the variances applied for are consistent with Plan Winnipeg and Complete Communities, do not create a substantial adverse effect on the area. They are the minimum modification to relieve the injurious effect on the property and are compatible with the area. I have a few slides here starting on slide 6 in my presentation that are from North American Development Group and SCA to illustrate the use that's proposed here, just for some additional information. Starting on slide 7, the spa will provide hydrotherapy services, including pools, a steam room and saunas, a lounge and bar area, as well as a thermal flow yoga class. On slide 8, there are some interior concept images of the spa. There is a location currently in downtown Calgary. And just some additional concept images on slide 9 as well. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you for your presentation. Just questions around, I suppose, this what I'm looking for, model being used in other areas with this particular company. Can you give us any reference to where this is being used?
The spa?
Yeah, SCA.
They have a website. There's an existing one in downtown Calgary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Downtown Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay. So space-wise, I guess when I looked at this and I thought spa is 11,000 square feet, a large enough space. I know that this is probably going to be pretty heavily used, given that there's not this amenity in the neighborhood. Should it be approved today? But thoughts on the space size, comments?
So we based our site plan on a concept site plan provided by the personal service use, so by the spa developer, and so that was the size of it. All of the activities are inside, so not outside like they would be at Thermea here in the city as well. So you know, that's just a concept, and the site will be is being subdivided off and actually sold to that spa user, and so they would be coming before you with plan approval with you know, refined details, site plan, floor plan, that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that's the required next step.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, that the actual size of the 11,500 could change?
It could be a little bit bigger or smaller. Again, obviously, we have zoning requirements to meet on site, but right now this is the concept that we have. Yeah.
Okay. And around connectivity to the rest of the site, comes to any sidewalks. I mean, people are probably going to be coming from other areas, parking in different areas. Is there plans here to incorporate any type of sidewalk?
Yeah, so there is an overall active transportation plan for the site, which and as each site has been developed at the plan approval stage, we've updated that plan to sort of show how those connections will be made. And Mr. Galston mentioned that as well, that'll be part of plan approval.
Okay, and then we'll leave the greenery question for plan approval should this committee pass it today. Thank you.
If I can just have one question, if I'm looking at this picture correctly, you're putting 6 trees in instead of 4? Page 4.
Yes, it looks like there's 4 trees required based on the zoning bylaw and 6 are provided. Again, this is a demonstration plan for landscaping that we were required to submit for the variance application and
it could change.
it could change and we're happy to take
And you could put more.
feedback.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. And no other questions? We're done. Thank you.
Okay, Steve Bishop is also registered to speak in support of the application. Steve's with us in person today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Steve Bishop. I'm with North American Development Group. We are the proponent in this application. I'm just here to support staff's recommendation and my colleague Megan, her presentation. Here to answer any questions not already answered. So if you will, I'm here to listen.
Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, thanks for coming today. Just wanted to, I guess more than a question, just are you aware that the community appreciates this type of investment and development of the area, especially when it comes to these types of amenities that aren't everywhere? It's not yet another fast food joint. It's not, another gas station or whatnot. So are you aware?
We are aware, yes. Our development partner is quite excited about the proposed use. They have been operating the hotel now for 2 or 3 years. Quite happy with the success of the hotel. So they thought this would be a very good addition and complementary use.
And that just lends me to my next and final question. When I initially looked at it, and I'm hearing that this could be revisited, the size of it. I mean, yes, there are a couple hotels. There's one directly there. There's other amenities in the area. However, you obviously do your homework with the adjacent neighborhoods and how this would probably be welcomed very much so in the community. Is it going to be big enough as it's outlined here? I apologize for our emergency services friends interrupting us here, but.
Yeah, well, we definitely rely on our development partner to do the research. They are comfortable with the proposed size. It is by appointment only. And so it would be a case of, facilitating that number of people throughout the day. And hopefully if it's as successful as they feel it will be, then they will be looking at other locations within the city of Winnipeg.
Well, again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, just noting that there's no one in the gallery looking to speak additionally looking to speak in support of the application, in opposition to or with respect to the application. So if there are questions for the public service.
One question, and of course, it all depends on the size and how popular this particular facility is. Is there, in your best guess, enough parking?
Yeah, strictly speaking, the site provides enough parking based on the zoning bylaw. If it's more, we would expect that if demand is greater than what the zoning bylaw requires, these sites within the Seasons of Tuxedo area have a shared access agreement or a cross access agreement, so that you could park at the north end of the Cabela's site and walk across or that type of thing. This is an area with a lot of parking that can be shared between different tenants and users and owners. So
that was my one question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
What, Mr. Chair? Oh, yes, I apologize.
Okay, so the applicant is entitled to speak in rebuttal to comments made. Megan, if you wish. No? Okay.
Okay. Do I have someone to move?
Yes, I will move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move that in accordance with subsection 2473 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties in the adjacent area, including the area separated by property by street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve any injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons for that is that this variance is consistent with Complete Communities 2.0, provides a new amenity to the growing area, and is supported by the public service and will be welcomed by the community. Mark my words.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred and that the variance be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that the public hearings with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please note the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll move for adjournment.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks for your time.